I want to enjoy it, right? And like a new cool thing was happening every day. It was like I look down and it's like, like Grimes commented on my shit and is like calling me an edgelord. Like Rebecca Black was fucking with the song. Like Hassan posted it, like did it on his stream. Like it was like a new thing like that every day. Or like, it was getting played on like Zane Lowe, like Apple Music, show, like yada, yada, yada. There's a lot to take in. So it was kind of cool. And I wanted to be present for each thing. And, because the buh is like the same as like a plosive, buh like sets out the same frequency, and then cinnamon, like you have the sibilants. So I also I learned this early on. I used to play in bar bands in like middle and high school. Like that was like what I did instead of getting like a real summer job and shit. It was like me and other folks I played music with would like me and the other kids would like whatever bar would like let us play. We would just do gigs there. And I learned I forget who I learned it from, but I learned along the way that syphilis is a really good word to test a mic on.
That's the best sound test word. Well, syphilis has a lot of S's and just annoying sounds going on.
Exactly. It's just a harsh phonetic construction, which is good.
So I typically, now why do my levels look so bad actually? Maybe I do need. All right, so I don't typically do like intros and stuff. I kind of just start talking to people.
Just jump in.
Yeah.
Cool.
But we could do an intro if you want.
What would that look like?
Geez, I've never done one, so I'm like I don't have like the Sean Evans like professional. Be like, hello everybody. Today we're sitting down with musician Estelle Allen, whose new album Music 2 is out, as well as Florida the Man.
Ooh. I can rip a bass solo if you want.
Whoa, that'd be kind of cool.
All right, you won't be able to hear it very well because it's not plugged in.
No, but it is exciting.
All right, I'm gonna do a little.
I did the intro like looking at you instead of at the camera. And I don't
that's sick. I'll just do like a little like. I fucked that up.
That was very good. That was very good. Yay! Thank you for sitting down with me.
Oh, of course. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Okay, I wasn't going to talk about this till later, but that just reminded me of something. You posted on Twitter that Anthony Kiedis ChatGPT like short story.
Oh my God, you saw that?
Yeah, I read all of that. It's very funny.
That shit was cracking me. Also, I'm allowed to cuss on here, right?
Oh yeah, you can do whatever you want.
I say shit all the time.
Yeah, shit, piss, fuck.
Piss, all the George Carlin.
But, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean that I like to have a little fun with ChatGPT. It's just such a silly tool, and there's almost like a certain tone of language that feels very like intrinsic to it. That just like, especially when it comes to storytelling, is just really funny. Like it'll always be kind of like built to where the story has like a moral at the end, and like whatever character you tell it to generate like discovers the magic of friendship and shit. So I forget where it started. I unironically love the Chili Peppers as a band.
They're my favorite band, actually.
Oh, okay, that's dope. Yeah, John Frusciante is like my favorite guitar player ever.
Me too.
I love like I've spent so much time digging into their music, and I feel like, I have listened to it like at a point where it's a lot more than a meme because it's just so much like in my childhood, but I also love the memes around them where it's like a shooba dooba 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 stinky California. Like it's just Anthony. So like like the prompt was like Anthony Kiedis and Flea, I think, need to like. Well, it started out as like Anthony Kiedis is like trying to do a seance and like summon Ronald Reagan's ghost to like learn about trickle down economics. But like the prompt was like Anthony Kiedis has to say California like every other sentence, and like It was ChatGPT's idea to have Flea refer to Anthony Kiedis as California. So Flea will be like, California, what are you doing? But then Anthony Kiedis calls everyone else California. He's like, I don't know, California. Like, and then like he does the whole trickle down economics song, and they like send Ronald Reagan like back to hell or whatever.
I was picturing the lyrics in Anthony Kiedis' voice. I'm like, he would say this.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, like, ChatGPT does a mean Kiedis impression. It's very impressive.
It's very cute of all of them to just call each other California.
I know. I would like to think that's how they are in real life.
Yeah, they're like, hey girl, hey California.
That's why John Frusciante quit twice. He couldn't take it.
Oh my god, I'm so excited he's back.
Yo, I saw them in San Diego with him, and it was magical.
I went to the Los Angeles show back in August, and that was like a bucket list thing. So I spent like too much money to be there, and it was like so good.
So fucking good. Oh my god, like the dynamic they have with him on the guitar is alchemical.
Yeah. So something I realized too that's so important about him being in the band is like John Frusciante backing vocals. Mm-hmm. Like, because obviously he's singing background on stuff like Scar Tissue.
Yeah.
But like hearing him there, I'm like, oh, this is like such an intrinsic part of this that's needed.
Yeah. You're used to hearing like that blend of voices like on the records and stuff, and like the notes that he can hit, and like the tone of voice like I love the kind of angelic halo of Frusciante around the more I guess kind of like abrasive Kiedis in the middle, like the way that sounds in a mix on a record, and then live also is just really cool.
This chapter's gonna be a close one. Smoke rings, I know you're gonna blow one. All on a spaceship persevering. Use my hands for everything but steering.
Yeah, sometimes with the memes, it makes me a little bit sad that people are diminishing them just to like a California slapstick kind of. I'm like, these are some of the most talented musicians on the planet.
But I think that ultimately is like kind of amazing because they are simultaneously both. Like the fact the fact that a California slapstick band can also just be like such a potent musical outfit and like put out stuff that is so genuinely beautiful and interesting, and like that has stood the test of time, I think is like the funniest, one of like the funniest, and just like also kind of most amazing things ever.
You know that Flea voices Donnie on the Wild Thornberries? Yeah. How do you feel about Coldplay?
I think Coldplay is awesome. I think
right?
they're underrated, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like there was a time where Coldplay was the biggest band in the world, and now they have a similar treatment where it's just like a joke or a meme. But I'm like, hey, Viva La Vida is really good.
Viva La Vida is great. I remember the first time I heard that, a friend of mine in like San Diego like pulled up this YouTube video and was like, have you heard this song? But I didn't realize it was the same band that did Yellow, because my dad used to play that song like all the time growing up, and I was just very familiar with it. And I think that song is incredible.
Yeah.
It's in a really funny tuning too. I learned how to play it really recently, and there's kind of a trick to it because it's in standard tuning, but the high E string of the guitar is, I actually forget, like if you put me on the spot now, I'd probably do it wrong, but like it's either tuned a half step up to F or down to E flat. I think it's up to F. So that like high string, and it's in B. So that high string is kind of making a suspended note, and you're playing all these open chords that would just sound like pretty run of the mill if you played them in standard tuning. But when that one kind of fucked up note is ringing out, it adds that sort of layer of tension in that progression that's really cool.
Look at the stars, look how they shine for you, and everything you do.
No, it's tight. If you listen to that song, there's just like one note throughout all the chords that's just like kind of fucked up. And it's cool because it like takes this like, you know, what on paper as a composition is just like a really pretty love song, and it just adds this kind of weird quality to that. And I always love things like that where you take something conventional, and instead of, you know, trying to go all the way fucked up with it, you add just one very off-kilter element that, like, you know, I think if you were playing by the conventional rule book would, like, you know, quote unquote, like ruin a good thing. But just by like introducing that one element of chaos, you sort of just like breathe a new life into this idea. And like, I think that's why, you know, things like love songs have become so ubiquitous and like people keep writing them, is because like you can keep introducing chaos into a simple form or into a form that's been used a lot and like keep it fresh.
Do you know the song Heartbeats by The Knife?
No, that's a great band name though.
It's like, I don't know how I would explain it, like if I would call it like club electronic music or what, but it's this guy Jose Gonzalez did this like kind of like Spanish guitar type cover. So it's just a very different sound than the original.
One night to be confused, one night to speed of truth. We had a promise made.
One night to be confused, one night to speed up truth. We had a promise made for Hansel and Owen.
It's like super beautiful song, but to play it you have to be in like open D tuning, and then you have to take like the B string or something and like bring it down one. Like it's just like hyper specific tuning, but it's like so beautiful, and I love stuff like that.
That's tight. Yeah, I was telling someone the other day that I want to fuck around with open tunings more on guitar, because I mean I used to, like, I played in bands before, and I think the instrument that got me really into making music was guitar. But lately, with the way I've been making my music these days, I kind of like to use it more as like a sample generator. And I find really quickly that with standard tuning, because you're just so used to playing things a certain way, you kind of run out of ideas, right?
Yeah.
Like there's only, I mean, you can do some stuff, like it can be pretty easy, I guess, to come up with like maybe like an NBA Youngboy type beat with like an acoustic guitar and standard tuning playing minor chords. But I feel like open tunings, because they just sort of put the shapes that you're used to on shuffle, you know, you'll ultimately end up playing similar progressions to what you'd come up with normally, but the voicings will always be different, and you know, it just creates a new puzzle for you to solve. So that's something I want to get into more.
How when did you start playing guitar?
Guitar at age like 12 or 13, so going on 14 years now.
It sounds like is music like just your just kind of favorite thing in the world?
Yeah, no, I mean, like it's, no matter what, I'd be doing that, you know, like it is both my favorite thing in the world, and then just also kind of my default. Like, I don't know, it's weird. Like, it's one of those things where, you know, if my life's not going the way that I want it to, or I feel kind of like out of sync with my routine or my existence, like 9 times out of 10, I'll kind of have this realization that I just, you know, have forgotten to make music every day, maybe over the past week. And as soon as I start doing that again in some form, like things kind of like fall back into order.
Right.
But yeah, it's also just, I don't know, like the feeling of either writing a song that I really like, or even like listening to a song I really like, or, you know, performing somehow, or like playing on somebody else's stuff, like chasing that feeling is like the only compass I know. Probably to a point that's unhealthy.
Sure.
But, you know, it's can't help it. It's awesome.
When you go through times where you have fallen out of like making it every day or as frequently as you like, is it difficult to get into that place?
Yeah, it is. But as I get older, I've learned to beat myself up less about it. Like before, you know, like taking a break, be that purposeful or accidental, and then coming back into it, it's always like banging my head against a fucking rock. Like, oh my God, like why am I not making like the best thing I've ever made in like 20 seconds? Like there is something like so fundamentally wrong with me right now. Whereas these days I'm just like, oh, like you idiot. Like you just like, you know, you're rusty. You haven't done it in a couple of days. Like chill, like my kind of rule for myself is like, you know, be open to making like 5 things that suck before like the 6th or 7th or whatever thing, you know, is more in line with what excites me.
Yeah, just kind of getting through the rough ideas to get to the good stuff.
Yeah, well, it's like, you know, you got to clear the sewage to get the pipes flowing.
I think a lot of people, what kind of stops them from making art, or at least even getting back into it, is kind of the fear of dealing with like bad stuff that you're not proud of for a while.
Well, because like no one wants to, I don't know, it's like holding a mirror up to yourself, right? Which is like, you know, like corny, but that's ultimately, I think from the artist's perspective, a lot of the time what art is. Like we're holding a mirror up to ourselves through the act of creation. And then, you know, when the act of creation yields something that is less than ideal for like where you'd like to be, you know, that's holding up a mirror and seeing a reflection you don't really like. So I think that it can be tricky and it can stop people, but I think the most powerful and badass thing you can do as an artist is like be cool with sucking, because you're not always gonna suck. Like, and probably like, like I guarantee that like your favorite artist, whoever that may be, they still probably make like something that sucks, like if not every day, like multiple times a week.
Oh yeah.
But like
absolutely.
when you're making stuff every day and you are consistent in your output and in your exploration and experimentation, like I firmly believe that the ratio of suck to not suck will begin to lean towards not suck.
I think what's interesting too is these days, like it's so easy for people to attain leaks. And I think for big artists, like it can probably be frustrating because they're seeing thousands of people enjoy like what they thought was their like sucky, like unfinished, like bad stuff that wasn't supposed to be seen. But then fans will be like, we like this more.
Yeah. I mean, like look at Playboi Carti. Like there's so many of his leaked songs that have become just like canon in his repertoire. Like people love like Kid Cudi, like Pissy Pamper, like they love like Molly, like all those songs that kind of just like ended up on the internet randomly.
Yeah.
And like I'm sure to him that's just like his random unfinished shit, but like a lot, like I fuck with those songs. A lot of fans do. Like, I think most of us are generally also our own worst critics, right? But then there's also, I guess, that weird ethical dilemma of where I think artists also, or I don't know, I guess it's tough, right? Like you don't want to like deify anybody or like hold anyone to different standards. But I guess like trying my best to speak from an artist's perspective, but also a fan's perspective. I get, us wanting to have control over how we're perceived, especially because like once your art is out there, like, whether you have like 20 people perceiving it or like 20 million, like, it is to some extent like in a public forum, like there's that, age old saying, like, it's not yours anymore. Like, you're putting something up on the chopping block to be like taken in, like that's scary. And I think like one of the last vestiges of control that we have is our ability to dictate when and how that comes out. And so I get how it can be kind of harrowing to have that sort of be wrested from your control. Like I'm a tiny artist, right? So I haven't had that experience yet.
Sure.
I might be a lot more gung-ho about it once I do. I'm sure it'll inevitably happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm speaking from the privilege of having my shitty songs like safe on my hard drive.
One thing that is probably unique to what you've been going through lately as a musician is having a song like DUI kind of get big online and just seeing like public reactions to it.
Yeah.
How's that been for you? Because I'm sure it's been all over the place with that song like being, I don't want to use the word controversial at all, but it's like obviously like about drunk driving and it's like a really, crazy hyper pop song. So people are going to react to it with like hugely varying degrees.
You should drive drunk, you should drive drunk, you should drive. You should drunk drive, you should drunk drive, you'll be fine. You see what I'm saying? I say. Drive drunk, you should drunk drive, you'll be alright. You can drive, you'll be alright, you can make it home. Yeah, it's a crime, but it's fine if there's no one on the road. You drive better this way, cause you're more careful. Is that a dog or a shot? Yeah.
It's, that's a funny one, cause like, when I made that song, I think I hoped for the nature of the reaction it was gonna get. Cause like, I don't know, like, speaking I guess as like the bitch who made it or whatever, like to me it's very clearly like an anti-drunk driving song. Like, it's just it's the reverse psychology thing. It's like, you have this cartoony voice like telling you to do a thing, and then you have just like clipping fucking badly engineered like kicks and like crazy guitar samples like sounding like making it sound scary as fuck. So I think for me, like, I had confidence that the ethos of that song, and like know that I use that word like so lightly. I wasn't trying to make any artistic statement with it.
Sure, yeah.
It came from a conversation my sister and I had like at the zoo once where, she was like, wouldn't it be funny if you like did like a jokingly pro drunk driving album? And then I was like, okay, well, I'm too lazy to make like a whole album about that, but like a song would be really funny. Yeah. And then we were joking about it. We were like, oh, like what if the cover was like a little kid in headlights going like, no, and, it comes from that kind of like me and my siblings share that like dark sense of humor. So it came from us laughing about something. And then like I had just been listening to like Giving Bad People Good Ideas by Death Grips, because that song is just unrelenting, like duh, 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 like the whole time.
Yeah.
So like had the hook, like, and then the Death Grips part, and that was basically the song.
Keep giving bad people good ideas. I keep giving bad people good ideas.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little off topic, but in terms
No,
of
no, this is all good.
Oh, hell yeah. But in terms of the reaction, I think I had always hoped for that kind of reaction, because my favorite art is stuff that is polarizing, whereas like, you know, the general there is no general consensus on whether it's like good or bad.
Yeah.
It's kind of just like people feel very strongly one way or another, and then they argue about it. So that was what I was kind of hoping for with that song. So I guess on the one hand, seeing that be the reaction is kind of satisfying, because it validates, like, I guess the notion that to me that song was like worthy of that kind of attention. But then actually experiencing the attention is like a whole different thing.
Right.
Like, you know, in my head before anyone's perceiving it, I'm like, oh yeah, like I want people to argue with each other over whether or not this song is good, or, you know, whether it's even like ethically like appropriate to like have it exist.
Yeah.
But then like when you have people on the internet like simultaneously like being like, this is my favorite song, and then like calling you a terrible person and like saying that, you know, you're being insensitive to like victims of a tragedy and like this and that, like the sheer what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. It's just like a weird, crazy like whiplash.
Right.
It's like, okay, like I am experiencing people simultaneously like, you know, loving my art and like hating it. And, you know, that's one thing to predict in your head and to imagine how you'd react to it.
Yeah.
But then like when it actually happens, it's definitely like kind of fatiguing. Like it didn't like fuck with me too bad, but after like the week where that song started to like do good on TikTok or whatever, I needed like a week to chill.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, like, luckily we live in an era where all that all that discourse happens because of the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like the cool thing about the internet is you can just like turn it off and like turn your phone upside down and like go outside. So that's kind of like, you know, like I just did a little bit of that and it was fine.
The only notifications I have like turned on is like messages. I don't have like and comment.
Yeah, no, I don't
notifications
either.
on.
Like that doesn't show up on like the front of my phone. But like then also, you know, it's like when you got a song you worked really hard on, like starting to do good on like the silly little clock app, like you're still gonna open it and like check on it.
Yeah.
So I had to also just rewire myself to be like, yo, you know, the thing that I'm experiencing right now with my music is not gonna go away if I don't like look at notifications all the time. Like,
right.
It's still, because you know, it's like I just turned 27 and I've been, you know, making music for a long time, and what I'm experiencing now, even though like it's still at like a pretty small scale, like this I've been wanting for like so long.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to feel like, oh, now that I'm experiencing this, like it's gonna go away like at the drop of the hat. Like I think I always like to joke that I have very poor emotional object permanence. So I had to kind of just wire it into myself that like, no, like it's gonna still be there. You can take a break from TikTok because that shit is like gonna fry your brain, and then you're gonna get too in your head about your art. And
yeah,
I don't know. I need to be able to keep making things in as silly a fashion as I do, so that it's genuine. And if I worry too much about like, you know, like I'm never gonna make a song that's like pro imperialism or something. You know, like I draw the line at what thing I'm gonna meme about. But anyway, yeah, I guess to provide a concise answer to the question, the reaction superficially was kind of what I was anticipating or hoping for, but then the feeling of experiencing that reaction was like very new.
Yeah, it also feel free to not be concise. I'm fine with long answers.
Okay, cool.
I feel like I talk the same way too. So yeah, the pressure to kind of just be absorbing this success like in real time at all times. You're like, okay, I have like a life to live still though.
Yeah, and it was weird because like I want, you know, it's like I want to enjoy it, right? And like a new cool thing was happening every day. It was like I look down and it's like, you know, like Grimes commented on my shit and is like calling me an edgelord. Like Rebecca Black was fucking with the song. Like Hassan posted it, like did it on his stream. Like it was like a new thing like that every day. Or like, you know, it was getting played on like Zane Lowe, like Apple Music, you know, show, like yada yada yada. There's a lot to take in. So it was kind of cool, and I wanted to be present for each thing. And like my girlfriend Ray always has kind of brought to my attention that I have a bad habit of like not celebrating little victories when they happen. Cause like, I don't know, like I think I think a lot of us as artists do this, but like I definitely hold myself to like an unrealistic standard. So nothing that I've like accomplished so far is like up to that. Yeah. So I never want to be like, oh yeah, like I'm going to go like get a burrito cause like something cool happened. I'm always like, no, like keep going, keep doing the thing. And like, you know, through all those experiences every day, like she was kind of encouraging me just to like stop and appreciate it and like be thankful for it. And, you know, celebrating doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm gonna go get like wasted because like, you know, Grimes commented on my thing.
Right.
Like, it's more like, you know, you just sit with the moment and you appreciate the thing that's happening. And I think that allows you to move forward with a little more clarity and like gratitude.
I do definitely celebrate by getting burritos though. I think that is a good way to go.
It's a good way to celebrate. Like, I don't know, especially like LA's got, I'm very picky because I'm from San Diego and we have the best burritos. That I will die on that hill.
See, I'm from Arizona, so I have my arguments, but I understand and respect this.
We gotta trade spots like off camera.
Yeah,
you know, we can't be giving away the game to people, but I'll give you some good stops.
That'd be great.
In SD if you want to give me some good Tempe ones.
San Diego is actually like where in California I've been the most. It hasn't been until recently I've started coming to Los Angeles more and more. And,
okay, where in SD have you been?
Like Pacific Beach area.
Okay, cool. That's like just north of where I grew up.
Yeah.
I grew up in like Ocean Beach, like Point Loma kind of area.
Yeah.
So PB's where, I mean, I kind of avoid PB when I go down because like that's where like you're going to run into like everyone you went to high school with like at the bar.
Oh, interesting.
Which is like, you know, like kind of fucking like nightmare blunt rotation for me. So I avoid that shit like the plague, but it's really pretty. The beaches are cool. Underrated for the beaches.
Yeah. I'd love to talk to San Diego or about San Diego.
Let's go.
Just really quick though, just to go back to the music really quick. I experienced the DUI song. I think like a lot of people, where I just got like 3 or 4 different people who had DM'd it to me, like, look at this shit. This is crazy. They're like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Because I love that the TikTok that went viral was just filming your DAW playing it and saying like, what the fuck is this, or like my sister's music.
That was funny too, because I mean like the framework of that was my manager's idea.
Okay.
That was like Jacob's idea. He was like, yo, have you tried doing one of those, like you film your DAW and like make a joke, like, and we threw on some ideas, like, you know, like he had just started managing me, and you know, I simultaneously come from this place of like, I don't want to be one of those like cringy, like I don't want to do TikTok like artists to work with, right? Like I want to try stuff, but also like I was still finding my footing in terms of like using TikTok. So I'm naturally going to be like, you know, like he'll send me an idea, be like, oh, okay, like that's probably worth trying, but like yada yada, you know, like I make up a bunch of reasons in my head why like I shouldn't do it, and then I just did it. I was like, honestly, the sister thing would be pretty funny. And like, you know, he's probably right. Like that framework is like kind of awesome. And of course that was like, I joked to him after that one did well that like, you know, you get, you know, permanent I told you so privileges after this. And like whenever Jacob Blue comes up with a TikTok idea, I'm going to do it. But, it was funny. I've really gotten more hate online for the framework of that TikTok than I have for the song being about drunk driving.
Oh, really?
Which is so funny. Yeah.
Why? Like they're calling you an imposter because it's your song or something?
Well, yeah, no, exactly. For every like one like comment about this is like making light of a tragedy, it's like 2 or 3 comments of like, oh, like what is this industry shit? Like I hate when people like market their songs like, oh, like we know you don't have a sister. And it's just like funny. It's like almost like yo, like, so there's this thing called like a joke.
Yeah.
And like being silly on the internet.
Well, people are also just like professionally, I think, like skeptical and pessimistic now, because it's like if you do a traditional ad, people hate that.
Oh yeah.
And then if you try to sneak it in by being all just filming stuff on an iPhone, people are like, I see you're trying to trick me. And it's like, well, how do you want me to promote anything then?
No, exactly. And it's also not like, it's not like me and Jacob like we're scheming, rubbing our hands together, like cooking that TikTok up in like a lab.
Yeah.
Like we were kind of like just, oh, that'd be funny. Like, you know, at least a couple people would probably like chuckle at that, and we're chuckling at that. So fuck it.
Do you think that people's sort of surprise reaction to hearing that song, even aside from the subject matter, is just that like people's ears are starting to get tuned to like hyper pop type soundscapes?
I think so. If anything, like I was afraid that like that song wasn't gonna have its moment when it did because of how kind of more like I wouldn't say it's mainstream yet, but more like common the qualities of that like sort of like the sort of hyperpop movement and stuff are in like bigger music. Mm-hmm. You know, like people talk about like hyperpop being dead all the time, and it's like, you know, I didn't sit down to make that song and be like, I'm gonna make hyperpop right now. But like, you know, it does share a lot of qualities with like the artists that very clearly inspired it. And so I was like, oh, like shit, like we're already at the point where like quote unquote hyperpop artists are like getting signed to majors, like, you know, doing songs with like MGK and shit. Like, is there still a place for like this kind of shit? Because like that was like my shitty song I made on like Logic that like is like the screenshot I posted on the TikTok of the DAW wasn't even like the actual session file. It was just like the stem bounces. Yeah. Like, and you know, I got some funny comments about like that being poorly engineered because all of that was clipping. But if you see the actual project file of DUI, everything is like slammed. Like that is not a well-engineered song.
Sure.
So, and like, you know, I feel like poor quote unquote engineering was like a hallmark of like early hyperpop. It was like a hallmark of early SoundCloud rap. But like when a genre or movement kind of like reaches a bigger audience and like gains more production value, you know, it's like, oh, like, is there a place for that anymore? So I guess I was kind of like surprised, but turned out I was kind of just getting in my own head about shit. Didn't really matter.
Well, see, I think over the generations, there's like always there's like cultural change in music, but then there's also technology. And I think obviously the technology of how we make music is what creates a space for something like hyperpop. And I think in the past, like even people who maybe really liked guitar music when the electric guitar came out, they were like, this is crazy. Yeah. I can't listen to this.
You can't. Well, I mean, like think about the reaction Bob Dylan got when
exactly.
I always also like the idea of him like going electric needs to be more of a meme. That's such a like funny, because like to the people that were using that phrase in the media at the time, and you know, I wasn't alive for that. I just can like look at articles from the time or like, you know, fucking the reactions of it or whatever. It really seems like it was a big deal. It was like, oh my God, like he did it. Like he went electric. There's no going back. I just think it's really funny.
He just changed altogether. He's changed from what he was. He's not the same as what he was at first.
You don't even recognize him.
No.
About a year ago, I saw him here in Sheffield at the City Hall, and I thought he was magnificent. And, you know, I thought he just couldn't improve if he tried. Then the next thing that happened was he went really commercial with this backing group, and I didn't like that very much. I think he's prostituting himself.
Makes you sick listening to this rubbish now.
Bob Dylan was a bastard in the second half.
I don't think the spirit of the Dylan songs is being portrayed in this, with this incredibly corny group behind him. I like his earlier records as on his freewheeling LPs, etc., but this I just can't stick.
Yeah, well, I in like recent history, like I remember being in middle school or early high school and having like Skrillex get really big.
Yeah.
And then like just dubstep sounds was what was contentious. Like some people were like, this isn't music, this is ridiculous.
People hated that shit. And like, you know, now because of hyperpop, it's like kind of cool again. Like Skrillex is having like his Drake moment right now. I'm not even saying that because he looks like Drake now, but like straight up, I mean, like he is a festival headliner.
Yeah.
Like when Frank Ocean wasn't going to do Weekend 2 Coachella anymore, like who do they call?
Yeah, it kind of blew me away, actually.
Yeah. And like, I don't know, I think it's cool. I also loved the last 2 albums he put out. But yeah, it's funny that you bring that up too about dubstep, because, you know, like we were in high school at the same time. That would have been like probably our freshman year, I think I remember.
Yeah.
Dubstep really starting to become the focal point of that conversation. And like Ray and I were watching South Park recently, and do you remember like the Tween Wave episode of that where they made fun of dubstep?
I might have missed that one.
It was literally just the one where like the kids are like, oh, this is awesome, and then like they listen to it and it's literally just like,
oh yeah,
like, it's like, that sounds like shit. Like, it's just funny. It's funny how, you know, the pendulum swings. Like I wonder what isn't cool right now that's gonna be cool in like 5 years.
Yeah, I don't know, it's interesting because when I first heard the 100 Gex album, it was because I had already known who Dylan Brady was, and his other music was quite different.
That's the GOAT.
Yeah.
Goat. There's a lot of goats, but
the first time I listened to that album, I only liked like one song. Because
really?
It was just so new to me because I kind of mostly came up on like alternative rock and rap, and I never really listened to dubstep very much, but I really liked Ringtone because that's like a very accessible song.
That's still my favorite song off that project.
It's great. And every time I went through the album, I would like get it. I'm like, okay, I like this one too, actually. And eventually I'm like, I just like this whole album now. But I think it took a while for like my ears to be accepting like maybe some of the more like grating sounds, and like now I'm at this point where it's not weird to me at all. Like it just sounds like really good music, and I'm like, yeah, the melodies are all here. It's just using like so many different ingredients at once, like that's what's interesting, because I have friends who I feel like we grew up liking the same things with bands, and now there's this divide where some of them just cannot get on board with that type of music because it's just so different. And so to hear you say that people are saying hyperpop is dead, I'm like, this still feels like the newest thing ever, like the speed, the life cycle of art movements is kind of crazy, because I can't think of that as dead at all. I feel like it's getting started.
No, I mean, I feel you. I mean, I wouldn't be making music like that can be categorized like that if like, it didn't feel fresh to me too. Like, I agree. I mean, it's just funny that how the way, the life cycle of things to audiences kind of accelerates, especially, I mean, like, I'm sure you could go on a whole like thing about how, phones and TikTok have to do with it because our attention spans are so much shorter.
Yeah.
But I think that like what Gex kind of, and like there's so many artists that like you can draw a line back to from them, right? But I think like what to a large audience Gex started is like kind of, I think it still has like a long life in it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's kind of funny, isn't it, too? Like the ability to draw lines through things. Like I remember, when I was playing guitar and like super into guitar and shit, like I think John Mayer was the first player that like really, really just like spoke to my soul. And like the way that he played guitar, I just found like super appealing. And then, through that obsession, found like Steve Ray Vaughan, and, through this SRV like obsession, like I think everyone who gets into playing music hears a Jimi Hendrix at first, but like, I really dug into Jimmy after like getting into Stevie. Yeah. And it's funny how there's kind of like a similar hyperpop pipeline, right? You can go like Gex to like Sophie to like A.G. Cook to like yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. I had found out about Sophie because of her work on the Vince Staples like Big Fish Theory. That's my favorite Vince Staples album. I love it.
It's so good. Also, the shit she did on that album is cool because not only like the actual production, I mean, like, yeah, right, banger. Like also Sophie, GOAT.
Yeah.
I have we would have seen it if we did it in the garage. I have a big poster that a friend drew for me of her in the garage that I really love. But yeah, that's the GOAT. I mean, Yeah Right's a banger. I forget I'm gonna fuck this up. Like I watched like an interview on it recently. It was what's that? There's another song on there where it was like Sophie didn't produce it, but she like came back from Disneyland to a Vince Staples session with like another producer and was just like, okay, you guys should make a song together, and then like left.
Oh, really?
Like wearing like Minnie Mouse ears and shit. And I'm trying to remember it was 745.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I'm not to what's it called? Like not give you your flowers, whoever you are that produced that. I just like forgot the name from the interview.
That song's so good.
That song's awesome.
745. Hope I can come scoop you up round 745. Slide around with my drop top up or down, you down the ride. Look me in my eyes and told me, Daddy, show you right. 745.
Yeah, he's an interesting artist who, with putting out albums so frequently. Like, do you feel like you feel a need to put out a project every year, or do you think you can take like multi-year breaks?
Oh my god, I mean, like I feel like my manager's gonna like roll his eyes at this. Maybe he won't, but like I would like to put out like 2 projects a year. I can't commit to that on the record, but I really like making long form stuff. I mean, like, you hear this phrase in the like, or in like industry circles and shit all the time, right? Like, oh, like it's a singles economy, which like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I like? And I think there can be, like, I don't view one or another as a superior art form, right? It's like you had, like, look at the 70s. You had Led Zeppelin, who, like, kind of only made albums and, like, like goes out saying, fantastic, like, amazing artist. Like, art is subjective, but, like, you know, for all the problematic things surrounding them, I think it's, like, pretty difficult to say that Led Zeppelin's music, like, sucks.
Yeah.
Like, all the music they put out, the albums are, like, fantastic. But then you had an artist like ABBA, who kind of only put out singles, but all those singles everybody knows. They're classics, like, you know, brilliant songs, you know, Mamma Mia, great musical.
Yeah.
Like, I think that you can have great innovation and great shit in, like, either form. And, you know, sometimes you get an artist like the Beatles, like, who kind of do both.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have to lean one way or another, I think I'm definitely more of, like, a long form project kind of gal. You know what I mean?
Albums feel special to me because it's like a unit and it's kind of something you can hold and spend time in. I think I think the low attention span nature of just media and art and like a singles economy, it sort of robs people of having, I think, more full experiences with art. You know, it's just like just snapping through things as fast as possible.
Well, because, like, yeah, there's like a whole generation of kids that, like, haven't even realized yet that music can be that.
Right.
But I think then that's also kind of cool because, like, I also think, like, at the same time that, like, a lot of the criticism about younger generations' relationship with the media is, like, there's validity in where that comes from. Like, no, people aren't stupid. And, like, I think that's been, like, you know, a common trope in media, like, as long as media's been around, like, since TV was king, right? It's always like, oh, like, the crazy younger generation is, like, stupid and, like, ruining everything. Whereas it's like, no, like, you just haven't seen them, like, grow into certain experiences that you've had, and you haven't seen, like, how differently they have those experiences.
I think one thing that's interesting with the internet, too, is, like, because people can find these, like, niche art communities and get super, super into things, like, there's probably, like, artists and art movements and just all this stuff that, like, the average person has never heard of, but the amount of, like, love and lore and fandom that does exist there is, like, huge, you know? Like, I think of like, I remember Channel 5 on YouTube, they went to, like, a rap festival or something, and people were just going insane over artists I have never heard of, like, in my life, you know? And so it's, like, I don't know. In some ways, like, singles and TikTok, it, like, makes, it can kind of feel like there's less of an emotional attachment, but then you realize, like, like, young people always, like, they get super into whatever they're into, one way or another.
Because, like, when you're that, I mean, remember when we were that age, right? Like, I think, like, and, you know, this is kind of funny given the music I make now, but, like, for me, weirdly, that was, like, Southern California reggae bands. Like, I got really into Slightly Stupid and, like, Sublime. Sublime was art. Like, Bradley Nowell died the year I was born, right? But, like,
Sublime with Rome.
Yeah, like the kind of music that descends from Sublime, I just weirdly got really into.
Yeah.
So, like, Slightly Stupid, Revolution, like, Iration, like, all those bands, like, and, you know, now, like, I've kind of, with the pendulum idea, I've kind of come back around to being like, okay, a lot of those songs are kind of fire. But, like, you know, for a long time I was like, oh my God, like, why was I walking around in, like, Billabong tank tops, like, listening to that shit? But then it's like, it's because when you're a kid, like, the stuff that, like, moves you, like, moves mountains, you know? Like, it's just different. And, like, I think when you're at an age where you're, you know, getting the first semblances of, like, what it's like to have an identity outside of your household and school and your parents and stuff, like, the things that you find that sense of identity in are, like, so precious.
Yeah.
And I think that sentiment is never going to go away because I think it's intrinsic to, like, being a human being.
Did you feel like you were able to be aligned with the thing, like the music you were into in your household, or were you into, like, way different stuff than your family?
It was kind of like a mixture. The dividing line was, like, the use of guitar distortion. My parents had pretty cool music taste. Like, my dad was more into, like, you know, alt rock and pop of, like, the 80s. So he was, like, into the Smiths and, like, U2. U2's, like, his favorite band. And, like, you know, like, also into, like, the Beatles and Bob Marley and shit like that. Whereas my mom grew up on, like, Motown, R&B. Like, she also really liked the Stones. Like, kind of more, like R&B based music. And through all of that, like I love so much of my parents' music taste. Like Stevie Wonder is one of my favorite artists ever. Like I discovered like Sam Cooke through my mom, like all that shit. Like I still rock with.
Yeah.
I must admit, I don't listen to the Smiths or U2 as much these days.
Yeah.
But they still got bangers,
Have you seen that guitar movie, It Might Get Loud?
Oh, yeah. No, are you kidding me? Definitely
Yeah.
watched that with my dad and my brother.
Because I went through like a huge Jack White obsession, which I'm actually wearing it.
I was going to say, I saw that earlier.
I just realized, but I was like super into him and then Jimmy Page, and like I just did not care about The Edge,
Yeah.
But there is this part where he's like showing how he's getting like these pedal effects out of the amp and like creating this huge sound by doing hardly anything. I kind of had to give it up. I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool.
It's kind of good. No, The Edge is underrated. Like it's I love that his calling card is not even like a sound, it's a rhythm. In the same way that like Migos's calling card that now everyone uses, like it's just ubiquitous in not only hip hop but pop, is the triplet flow, like the da 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 da.
Yeah.
Like The Edge's calling card is that dotted eighth delay on the fucking guitar. Like bum ba da 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 da. I think that's hard. I think it's like like signature guitar tones or whatever. Like if you're a guitar geek, which like I must admit I still like kind of am.
Yeah.
Like that shit's cool. But if you're the kind of musician that has like a signature rhythm, I think you're on some other shit.
Right.
Like that's what puts like, like Amigos over someone that is just like a clone of that, or someone that like, might have a really cool like lyrical style or like a catchphrase or like, a trick they do on a vocal effect. But like, rhythm is not only intrinsic to music, but just to life. Like rhythm is breath, rhythm is heartbeat, like rhythm is, I'm going to sound like such a fucking stoner right now. Rhythm is frequencies, it's waveforms, it's like binary code. It's like, rhythm as a concept is what like existence is built on. So if your ass as a musician like has a signature rhythm, I think that's so special.
Right.
So yeah, that's my talking up the edge. Goat. Goat status.
Do you think there's like a modern guitarist that should be considered as like the current like prolific guitar person? Because I feel like since Jack White, there hasn't been like a rock star figure. Like there's rock bands that are huge, like Arctic Monkeys or Tame Impala, but I don't know if anybody has been this pushing the culture forward, like symbolic figure, the way there was always rock stars.
I think, okay, if we're talking guitar,
yeah,
I think Filthy, who produced a Whole Lot of Red by Cardi, and who, at least as far as I know, is not a guitar player. But I think what makes that album really special is its use of rock aesthetics. And this is a concept that like Death Grips were even talking about a lot and like have done a lot in their music. It's the idea of generating the feeling of an electric guitar from an instrument that isn't a guitar.
Right.
Like they did that on The Money Store by taking like samples of like a car engine revving up and then putting that through guitar effects and like having that be the guitar in the song. And like, I've seen just guitar and like not only guitar, because like even before Cardi did a Whole Lot of Red, like you had like that Lemonade song, Don Toliver and Internet Money, that was really big, that had kind of like a Chili Peppers chordal riff in it. Like Young Boy uses like acoustic guitar and like minor chords and flamenco elements like all the time in his music. But like you weren't really hearing like rock guitar being super popular in hip hop or pop.
Yeah.
Whereas like now we're back to like these big walls of distortion. Like you hear a lot of like grunge shit and like Destroy Lonely's music. And like that all goes back to Whole Lot of Red. It's in like Yeats with like those big synth stabs and Yeat songs. All goes back to Filthy, I think. And like, like there's probably, I'm sure there's someone that like he got, a version of that idea from, right? Because like all art is derivative in some sense. But like the wave of just like innovation, not of the literal guitar, but of the sound of the guitar, that I think he set people on with that album is like pretty noteworthy. Because like to my knowledge, there's not a lot of, or like if any, actual like guitar on that album. There might be some guitar on Slayer, but like you know, you hear so many guitarish sounds or sounds that evoke guitar just generated by synths or by like weird percussion or by just like a strange element.
Yeah.
And I've like, when I think guitar innovation, I think the actual instrument has like, you'd have to do some pretty wild shit to innovate on it. But I think like, you know, guitar innovation going forward is not so much going to be about innovating the use of the instrument, but innovating the feeling and the vibe that was originated on that instrument. Like guitar is no longer like a piece of wood with 6 strings. It's like a vibe in a song.
Right.
You know? So I think like I would say Filthy in my opinion.
Okay.
Just because of that notion.
Yeah. You know, it's funny the way you put all that. Like I'm not a musician, but I like a lot of stuff. And sometimes when I'm trying to articulate what I like about a song, like I don't even know how to describe like I'm like, yeah, the synthesizer guitar sample part. Like I don't even know like what I'm hearing. So I just have to just kind of describe the melody, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird too how it's blending like what genre even is.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
mean genre doesn't exist. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's what I was gonna ask you, kind of, because like listening to the Florida the Man music, it's like these are structurally like country songs, but then they sound like hyper pop, I suppose. Yeah. Could you speak more about that project? I don't really know the backstory too much on it.
So my roommate Jacob, he has his own solo project. He puts out music as a Deloitte Elzy. Actually, I'm gonna plug him real quick. He put out a single called Mechanical Bull the other night that if you're listening to this, you should go listen to because it is a beautiful piece of art. Immaculately written, has a great story, and has the nastiest pedal steel guitar solo I've ever fucking heard in my life. So real quick plug, but Jacob, my roommate, and I, we go way back. Like we met in college and shit. So like we've known each other a while, and you know we started living together in September, and then one day I kind of just had like, in terms of genre, I always like to joke, you know, like this kind of goes back to what we were saying about the Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
How, you know, for all their nuances and like subtleties that like we as fans can pick apart, then there's always going to be like, oh, this is like, I love that you said slapstick California band. Like, I love that there's just like trope. Like, I love the idea of just reducing something to a trope, like in a disrespectful way.
Yeah.
And like, you know, if I'm going to reduce hyperpop as I know it to a trope, it's going to be like, snare that sounds like a trash can on a trap beat with like distorted bass and like pitched up vocals. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, country as a trope is like beer tractor fucking tailgate, you know, like cowboy. So like, it felt like when Jacob and I were in college, we both worked at this country western bar called Loretta's in Boston, and Jacob's from Jacksonville, Florida. So that's another thing that makes Florida the Man very interesting, is that he comes from a very authentic kind of Southern background. So like his references in that music are very like tailored to that authentic experience. Like he's talking about tailgating, and he's like talking about like, you know, where the crawdad sings and like sipping Arizona tea on a tire swing and all this. And I'm like, beer, tractor, I'm from California. I know this as a caricature. So I think that juxtaposition makes it kind of fun to write songs together. But yeah, it was the idea. Like we were both like, because he actually plays it, and I was just like bussing tables listening to it for like a solid year and a half or so. But like we both are familiar enough with the framework of country music, and like it's a cool like when I say formula, I don't mean that with derision. Like I think it's a very cool formula that goes into making a lot of pop country music. Like it's tried and tested, and it's like razor sharp.
Yeah.
And you know, you already hear a lot of pop country these days where like they've started like Like if you listen to country radio, like you won't have to listen that long before you hear a trap beat on it. And like,
yeah, it's so funny that's where we're at now. Yeah.
Also the fact that like the trap beat is just that ubiquitous is like kind of fire. I wonder how like Zaytoven feels about that. But fucking like, and you've seen, you know, like Lil Nas X have like, you know, he's blossomed into like this whole other artist now. But his breakout was literally just putting country on a trap beat like he was already hearing on country radio, and then like making a cool song out of it.
It's funny too because that song, like, obviously there was a little bit of pushback, I guess, from country people, but in general, I think this song was just so catchy and good. Everybody's like, we're all fine with this. We all just like this.
Yeah, it was fire. I mean, like, yeah, like you know, like I am not necessarily like qualified to speak on the nuances of this, but I mean, like, I think just the pushback was just racist. Like that's all it was, you know, and like, but. In terms of the framework of like, I guess Florida the Man, like all it was taking that like, okay, country over a trap beat, and then you just turn the snare into a trash can. You drag Dorian Electra snare _1 from Splice and put it on like the 3 of the beat, and then you pitch up the vocals and like auto-tune the fuck out of them and then distorted 808. And like that was an idea that like existed in our heads for a bit, and then one day we just like decided to try it. And what's funny about that song is like, you know, it's like the song Crawdaddy, like I guess this notion is on the whole project, but I'm kind of talking specifically about Crawdaddy because that's the first one we made.
Yeah,
like that sounds like some shit you'd make like fucked up in the middle of the night on like a Saturday. We made that like stone cold sober at like 8 a.m. on a weekday. Like so awesome, like
you're completely level-headed.
Yeah,
just
like had the chord progression. We'd been talking about the idea for a couple weeks. I was like, what if we just do this today? Like we're here right now. Like you don't got to go to work. Like let's make the thing. And it came out so easily. Like you know the feeling of like taking a shit when you've been eating really healthy, and it doesn't come out too rock solid or too like messy. It just like
it's perfect.
It's kind of like a one and done. How was that song?
And you're like, this is what I should have been doing this whole time.
Literally, yeah. And like all the right ingredients went into it. Like the diet and the way the diet was synthesized into that song produced a perfectly shapely and easily managed poo.
You know, I think a lot of young people and then especially artists wind up just having very chaotic like sleep schedules and sleep deprivation and just kind of working and collaborating at completely random hours. Is it important to you to kind of have like a balance, like going to bed and getting up at a good time, or is it kind of all over the place?
It is lately. It kind of depends. I think I'm kind of on a more like domestic sleep schedule now because like, you know, like I live with my girlfriend, like we like to get up early and start our days together and like, you know, make breakfast and stuff. And like that routine, especially with like, you know, some of the stuff that's been going on in my life now is like super grounding. So I think like at this stage, I very much value a healthy sleep schedule. And like, I definitely like, as I get older too, I feel like not getting enough sleep. But then like, you know, not even that long ago, I've made like what I consider some of my best shit, like staying up till 4 a.m., like making music, you know? So I think it kind of depends. Like in times where I'm like marathoning, creating stuff, it tends to be late hours. Like, I just finished, or I guess, you know, we still got some stuff to do, but I was in Arizona a couple months ago, mixing my next project with Jacob Kellen from Fear of Making Out. And we were staying, like, we tried to, like, you know, we set an intention of, like, not staying up till, like, 4 or, like, till sunrise.
Yeah.
But we would still stay up, like, pretty late. And then, like, you know, earlier, like, almost a year ago, like, last summer, July or August, you know, we all did, like, a writing camp for some other artists, like, in Arizona. And that was, like, staying up, like, till the sun comes up. Like, you know, you go to bed at 10 a.m., wake up at, like, 4 p.m., and then, like, get it rolling. Like, I think I can function creatively in either. I think I'm definitely almost more creatively active when I do the unhealthy sleep schedule, But at least like right now, for just being like a functioning human being who like lives her life healthily and like doesn't go crazy, I appreciate like more of what some would consider to be like a domestic routine.
Yeah, it can be frustrating because everything takes a lot of time, from like making stuff to self-care things. I find like I always do a lot better when I go to bed at a good time and then get up early. But then like by the time I've done all the things I need to do just for life stuff, by the time it's like time to actually do some artistic work, I'm like, fuck, it's like late now. And by the time I'm even getting to the good stuff, it's going to be really late. And then
you're tired because you woke up early.
Yeah. And then I'm like, and then this all can't happen tomorrow. So sometimes you just kind of have to get into the trenches late
That's
night.
the thing too. Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't know. Plus I think I'm also more creative at like 3 a.m. Like there's something about that witching hour that like makes me try shit I wouldn't try normally. And then like, you know, no one's around. So there's that kind of isolation of being just like awake and not that many other people around are awake. Like no one in your house is awake.
Yeah.
And I think just being in your own little world in that space can yield some cool things for sure. But you know, it all depends. I think at the end of the day, like we as artists also like make a lot of excuses for ourselves. And it's like, I can get on here and like say that I make better art at like 3 a.m. But if I really put my mind to it, I can make something at like 4 p.m. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm too stubborn to try.
Yeah, no, I'll be trapped in the making stuff at 2 a.m. thing for a really long time, and then the day I finally go to bed early and get up at 7, I'm like, oh, I feel way better.
Yeah,
actually.
it's like wow, I like don't want to, you know, bring the walls down around me. Like shit feels pretty good. It's crazy what a good night's sleep can do.
Yeah.
I sound like such an old lady saying that, but like straight up, if you're listening to this and you're like 19 and like, you know, you're on your crazy shit, like your body can still handle it. So like go ham, you know, within reason, but just like a good night's sleep is like the hardest shit. Like that shit goes stupid.
I think it's like the most important thing, honestly. Like I feel monumentally
it sets
better.
like the baseline. I mean, like you can't sustainably live your life on like 50% battery every day.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna eventually need to crash. Even like Ray and I were talking about, we've had such a busy week between the two of us, and there's been like so much shit happening. Like we've designated tomorrow as like we are not doing anything. Like, you know, we'll like not like we won't like rot in bed all day, but it's like she's probably gonna paint at some point. Like I am like the most I'm gonna do is like play Dark Souls. Like that is where I draw the line.
Yeah, Jacob was telling me you're super into Dark Souls.
I could go like, you think that I'm long-winded in talking about shit now. If you get me talking about FromSoft games, we're gonna be here for days.
My former roommate, he was like the biggest Souls game person, and
they're the best video games ever made.
I grew up like pretty much primarily Nintendo. So I tried playing like a little bit in the very beginning of one of the games. Like the first thing I had to fight, I was like, this is the hardest thing I've ever fought in any game. This is the first thing I have to fight.
Yeah. What game was the first one you played? Do you remember?
It might have, I really don't know. It could have been any of the Dark Souls.
Do you remember what the thing you were fighting looked like?
I just remember I was in like a tiny castle type room, and it was just like a big monster,
big fat monster with a big hammer.
Yeah.
Dark Souls 1. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean the Asylum Demon is kind of scary first time. I definitely died to him a couple times starting out. I mean, those games, what makes them so brilliant to me is the presentation. And like, I think it has such a steep curve of people like quitting at first, because like there's that stigma of like, oh, like you died, like this game is just like you die a bunch. And like, I think, you know, people don't get the opportunity to like experience how death is used as like a mechanic in those games for like learning. Like, yeah, like the Asylum Demon's gonna like smash you into a pulp like a bunch of times the first time you pick up that game, but like every time you die, you get a little closer to realizing that he's sort of like an animatronic and can only do like 3 or 4 things.
Right.
And so like, I don't know, like the way those games in terms of the death mechanic is like you get a chance to like suss out your environment, and it's kind of, you know, like everyone says this who plays those games to the point where it's cheesy, but it literally is like a microcosm for real life. It's like, you know, trial and error. Like that's the approach to that game. It's not like your typical kind of like Skyrim like RPG. Like where dying is, I think death isn't that bad in Bethesda games, but like still it's kind of like, oh, like you failed. Whereas like in Dark Souls, when you die, it's just like, oh, okay, how did I fuck up that time? And how can I like do it better when I try again? And I think those games are cool because like they teach you persistence. And like I have definitely applied shit I learned from just like grinding Dark Souls like to being a musician, Yeah. You got to try a lot of shit and fail a lot doing this. And like it often feels like a Sisyphean like fucking nightmare of rolling the boulder up the hill and like having it like roll down. Like, but like I've done what feels like the same shit like so many times, but I have learned a little bit from like every time I've had to do it. And then you start to get in a rhythm and a groove, and then like you got your cool ass sword and like your armor, and like maybe your health bar is a little longer, and you got some stamina so you can roll like a couple times before you gotta chill, and it works out. But yeah, I mean,
I like hearing all the personal motivation stuff you get from that, because I definitely played a lot of video games growing up, but as I've gotten older, I realized I was playing like pretty easy ones. And so now as an adult, I've been kind of trying to force myself to play like harder games that I would have just dismissed. Like I recently beat Wario Land 4 for Game Boy Advance, which as a kid was like the hardest thing in the world. Now I'm like, I can figure this out.
Yeah.
So I played Metroid Dread on Switch, and I think that end boss was the hardest thing I've ever done. But kind of like you were describing, you just kind of have to learn the rhythms of what you're fighting, and then you're just kind of almost playing a rhythm game, just ducking at the exact right moment.
Which is like, it's funny because then like all games essentially become like Dance Dance Revolution or Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero is like the most baseline game you can play. Like there's such a meme in the Souls community about how like when people like say that it's hard, like someone will come on like a subreddit and be like, I tried to get into this game, but it's too hard. You'll get people being like, bro, like it's literally Guitar Hero. Like you just hit the circle button when the thing like attacks you.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny in that way, but
I'm playing the new Zelda, and like one of the hardest things you can fight is a Lionel. And I'll see TikTok clips and people in the comments will be like, Lionels aren't even that hard, TBH. And I'm just like, people will reduce like the hardest challenges. Like, yeah, it's actually easy.
Yeah. I mean, that shit's annoying though too. Cause like, I don't know, like video games are like hard sometimes. And I think, same thing with accomplishments in real life too. Like when something gives you a lot of trouble and you finally overcome it, like, yeah, part of you does want to go on like a random internet forum and like flex on people that are still having trouble with it, as if you like weren't like wanting to break your controller up until like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So like at the end of the day, it's all silly, but I love Souls games.
So I asked ChatGPT to make a 3-question Dark Souls lore quiz for you.
Okay, let's go.
Would you like to? So I don't know the answers, so I will question the validity. You could say these are wrong, and I would just have to believe you, but we'll see how this goes.
Okay.
So question 1: who is responsible for imprisoning the 4 kings in the abyss?
Oh, that's good. I want to say it was Gwyn, but I know that the 4 kings also have a shard of the Lord's soul, so that would kind of imply that they're on good terms with Gwyn because he gave them a shard of it. But Gwyn is also like kind of like the big god, like head dude, final boss of Dark Souls 1. So, oh no, you know who it was? It was it's like, I forget the actual name for it, but it would have been, I guess, the Guardians of the Seal. Because like there's a character named Ingward who's one of them, because they flooded New Londo ruins. So okay, Souls lore nerds contest me on that, but I want to say that it's the there's a name for them because they have the Crimson Armor set and like the Tin Banishment Catalyst. It's the fucking whoever Ingward's homies are, it's them. Imprison the 4 kings.
Okay, so it says, I think you were more right when you were starting. It says Gwyn's loyal knight,
Artorias.
Yes.
Okay, I did not. Well, I guess that makes sense because Artorias' like enemy was the Abyss, and the 4 kings reside in the Abyss. So like his whole mission is to like contain the spread of the Abyss. So yeah, I guess it makes sense it was Artorias. Damn, that's embarrassing. I'm gonna get roasted for that.
Your thought process was really good though.
I was just going by like context clues and shit. It makes sense that it was Artorias. I'm kind of embarrassed I didn't get that, but
You know what's funny is when I first asked ChatGPT to make this, the first question, I was like, make a quiz for an experienced player. And the first question was like, who is the main character of Dark Souls?
You were the main character of Dark Souls.
Yes, I had to put like, make this harder.
Yeah. John Dark Souls.
Question 2, what is the true identity of the character known as Priscilla the Crossbreed?
That is kind of contested in the fandom. The like fucked up theory is that she is the bastard daughter of Seath the Scaleless, who's a dragon that betrayed the other dragons in the gods' war against the dragons, and Guinevere, who's the daughter of Gwyn.
Okay.
That's the fan theory, and I kind of ascribe to it because it's just very Game of Thrones and like fucked up, and it's like she's obviously half dragon because she has like an anime tail and shit.
Yeah.
So I like to believe that.
I think that's correct because all it gave me is Priscilla's half dragon, half human hybrid.
Yeah.
All right, question 3. What ancient city was known for its advanced sorcery and became the birthplace of Seath the Scaleless?
Ancient city
was known for its advanced sorcery and was the birthplace of Seath the Scaleless.
Okay, the city known for sorcery. I didn't know Seath was from there, but okay, I know this.
Take your time.
I almost said the Elden Ring one, but it's okay. Like Big Hot Logan would be from there. A dude you find in the lower end of Berg would be from there. Bellowing fuck! I wish I had it pulled. If I could see the Bellowing Dragon Crest ring item description, I know it. It's okay. This will take me a second. Okay, I can't remember what it's called, but I'm gonna save a little face by saying that I know for a fact that the blacksmith in New Londo Ruins is also from there. You're gonna say it and it's gonna piss me off so bad.
Do you want like 10 more seconds, or should I just say it?
Just say it.
It says Anor Londo.
Oh, what? Okay.
Should we fact check it?
I want to contest that.
I'm not on your internet, so I can't. But if you want to Google it,
well, okay, wait. Okay, do I have my phone on me? Because Anor Londo is where the gods are from, and I didn't.
Okay, wait. I have my phone.
Because I don't think they were known for sorcery. They would have been known for miracles.
We're contesting the AI.
Okay, I see. I think it's saying that because Seath's like hideout, like it's called the Duke's Archives. That's in Anor Londo. So like there's kind of this big tower you go to, like, so he has this thing where like he'll abduct maiden, like I'm kind of really, what's it called? I'm very much simplifying this, but Seath the Scaleless is this, dragon that was born without scales, so all the other dragons like made fun of him.
Yeah.
And because like he didn't fuck with that, he like, when the gods went to war against the dragons, he went to the gods and was like, he, the secret to breaking through the dragon's scales is lightning. Do with that what you will. And then yada yada, like the gods killed all the dragons, and then Seath was, named a lord and given this big observatory to conduct like his crazy experiments, because he was like trying to find immortality and stuff to compensate for not having the defensive dragon scales. But what he does for some reason, I don't remember why in the lore, he sends these things called the channelers around, abducting maidens to turn them into like squid things. For some reason.
I love when villains just have a scheme like that.
Yeah, but like it's just this random scheme. Like you go in there and like in the game, like, you fight Seath the first time. He's found the secret to immortality, which is just this random crystal. And so you can't kill him. So he kills you. You like wake up in this jail cell. You got to bust out the jail cell. And then just some random snake being lets all the maiden squids out. And you got to kill them. It's when you try to explain Dark Souls stuff, it's like very literally, it just sounds so fucking silly. It's pretty funny.
It just sounds like Homerian, like Odyssey kind of Greek god stuff.
I love the symbolism in it too. And what's cool is like they kind of reuse the same framework in every game. Like even Elden Ring is kind of just Dark Souls 1 lore, like on steroids. But I've never found it to get like any less cool. Like the ways they build on that framework are really sick. It's always like, the gods went to war. Like, there's always some beef between like the gods and the dragons, and then like, you know, this faction that believed in like this faith like reigned supreme, and then, you know, there's this disparity between two forces, be it like fire and dark, or like this and that, or yada yada, and like you are the harbinger of like a new era, and like, you know, basically you can kind of reduce it all down to like you have to kill God so you can turn into God, and that's Dark Souls.
That's pretty sick.
It's kind of fire. It's pretty metal.
Do you do goofy builds with your characters?
Sometimes. I tend to go pretty like, I get really into the role playing aspect, so I like to be this cool like kind of fucking feminine like dex build. Like the first time I play a new Souls game, I'll do that because like that's just like what I like to embody in my silly like, you know, role playing type head. But when my brother and I like sit down and we play like pass the controller with Dark Souls, we'll come up with like a goofy challenge.
Yeah.
Like the last goofy one we did was a bonk build challenge where you were only allowed to be fully naked like a cave person, and you could only use wooden club weapons, of which in Dark Souls 1 there's 3. So you can start with a class that is essentially the basic version of that challenge. It's called the Deprived. So you're in your underwear and you have a wooden club. And then like during the second level of the game, you can get like a wooden club that has like nails sticking out of it. And then like later on when you're in this area called Blight Town, you can get like a giant club. And so the goal is to just get giant club and get that as powerful as you can. You can't wear any armor and you just got to bonk shit.
I love that.
It was good. That was the last challenge run we did.
I'll have to show you my buddy's videos. Like he did one where he just is SpongeBob. Like he's just like a yellow guy, and it's just horrifying looking.
That's so fire.
He has another one where it looks pretty identical to Ganondorf from Zelda. And
Okay,
he maxed out his abilities to where he just only punch fights people. Mm-hmm. He's just like wrecking like dragon shit by punching the shit out of them.
I love that though. Like what's cool about those games too, like, see, I told you, we've been on Dark Souls for like so long.
Yeah.
You know, like don't say you weren't warned. But what's cool about those games, you know, like to go past the lore and into the actual gameplay and the framework of them, there's no right way to play it.
Right.
There's ways that I believe are more fun sometimes, but like if you want to beat the game using like only your fists, like you can. Like there's a way to do it.
Yeah.
You know? Sometimes there's you got to use glitches. Like there's a lot of great YouTubers that will like do like, oh, like, you know, Elden Ring, but you're not allowed to walk. And like people find glitches around that, you know, like,
yeah.
I think that shit's like really cool.
Have you played Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom much?
No, because I don't have a Switch. I need to get a Nintendo system. We have a Switch charger here somewhere. But like both my old roommates who moved out after the first lease were the ones with the Switches.
Yeah.
So I just got this PlayStation and like every Souls game and like Serious Sam and like that's it.
I think that those games have a similar appeal where like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, like once the game starts, you're just given this giant open world and it's just kind of like, all right, do it, like do what you want. Mm-hmm. And in any situation, like there's a creative way to solve it. Like if you have to get over like a valley, it's like you could chop down a tree and make it a bridge and walk over, you know? And I just feel like the creativity and the openness is super cool.
Well, yeah, no, it's fire. And like, it's funny you bring that up too, because like Zelda is actually like a huge influence on the Souls games. Like Zelda is like the Elvis to like the Souls Beatles, you know what I mean?
Right.
So and like even like Breath of the Wild, like Elden Ring with the horse mechanic of the open world, like, definitely totally. Even like took a little bit from it. And yeah, I love games like that where you are given options to find a creative way to solve a problem. And I think that's also what turns a lot of people off because like you know, not to shade any of these games because I think all video games are fun and like, you know, same as with music, I'll never like shit on any kind of music because like as long as it's like not saying anything that's like harmful to somebody, like it's ultimately subjective.
Yeah.
But like I'm not a fan of, especially when it's adventure games, like just when there's a bunch of shit on the screen telling you exactly what to do. Like I tried to play The Witcher one time and like a friend of mine was like, yo, you'll love this. It's like fantasy. It's like Dark Souls, yada, yada, yada. I had the same problem with Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
But it's like you would just have this crazy heads up display with like 8 fucking health bars and like, you know, instructions popping up on how to do this combo. And there's like a crosshair and there's like all this shit. And it's like follow this like glowing pathway. And it just kind of like gives me a headache. Whereas like when you just have like health bar, here's your weapon. Here's how many like points you have on the screen. Like figure it out. It's like you got room to breathe and be like, I can figure this out from here.
Yeah,
that's kind of fun.
That's what derails me the most in games. Like I'm so used to like playing stuff like Mario and Pokemon that's like so simple. So when I'm playing like harder games where there's skill trees and like a million menus and stuff, I'm like, I don't know what to do with any of this.
Yeah,
this is too much.
It's almost like it reminds me of, this was like a long time ago. My brother came up with this like script or idea. He's always like writing stuff. But he came up with this idea. I forget if it was going to be a story or a film. I know he wrote, if he didn't write the whole thing, he wrote a lot of it. But it was this story about like an immortal being that like, I'm probably butchering. Like if he was on here, he would explain it so much more articulately. So I'm sorry, Alex, if I'm butchering like your cool idea, because it was like so cool when you described it to me. But basically it was the idea of like these people searching for this like purported like immortal being that was like hiding out in this like, you know, strange place. Like I think it was like in a cabin or in a house, and they find this being expecting it to be this omniscient, all-powerful like God, and it's like this shriveled like kind of unhealthy like husk, because due to immortality and like all these options and like the ability to do like, you know, this or that or like whatever, and like potential or yada yada, like hasn't done like anything. And so like, because like it can experience like all these different forms of reality, like whenever it wants, and it's never going to die, it just like doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And I feel like that with games sometimes, like sometimes when there's like all this shit around you and like all these skill trees and all this like yada, 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 it's kind of like hard to know where to get started. Like the overwhelming, like it's supposed to be really stimulating, but it ends up like, you know, creating that like overstimulation based like boredom. If that makes sense.
Yeah. With music, do you feel like things are pretty simple for you to jump into?
I try to keep it like as simple as fucking possible. Like if I'm trying to achieve a sound or achieve a thing in my songwriting or achieve like a production trick, if it takes more than 3 steps, like I'm probably doing it wrong.
Right.
Yeah. Like by design, I try to keep it like as simple as possible, because, you know, like all my favorite shit is mad simple. You never like need a million chords, and the instances in which like I hear like crazy chords being used in like gospel or like R&B, it's, you know, you're stacking like triads, like 3-note chords on top of each other, and the progressions are all like substitutions for like what originally was a 3-chord progression. Like if something is like complicated, it usually has a like, if something's complicated and like hits, in my opinion, it usually tends to have a really simple framework.
Sure, yeah.
So like I try to keep shit pretty boneheaded, because it just works the best for me. And you know, you can get complicated with like the nuances of things, but if you make your foundation too complex, I find that it kind of ends up being like really brittle. Like it's harder to keep interesting. Whereas like finding 3 chords you like, or like a simple melody that's repetitive and catchy, and finding variation within that, or like, okay, like we have this same 3-note melody playing throughout the song, but what if just like a different instrument plays it every time? Like that to me tends to result in music I like more than like finding like 13 different fucking jazz chords and like stacking them on each other. But also like music is subjective, right? So there's going to be someone out there that like probably makes sick shit that I think is awesome that would like call me an idiot for saying that. So like
when you were making the Music 2 album, were you aware you were making an album, or were you just kind of making songs and then they kind of all got put together?
It was kind of both, weirdly. I had wanted to make like my first like EP or album or whatever for a while, like when I started doing like solo music. That record like has gone through so many, like it was a completely different one at one point, but I like to think it all stemmed from the same idea. Like when I decided I was going to put out solo music, my first idea was like I had this song like called Tangerine, and I was going to do like an EP called Tangerine. And the concept's always been the same. It was always going to be like every song was like there were stylistic things that could tie them together, but every song was going to be like a different quote unquote like genre or whatever. But like, you know, I just kept writing songs that I felt like were better than the ones I had, and that made me feel like the ones I had like were kind of booty. So I kept just like subbing them out, swapping them out. I think it was like the original form, it was going to be like a song. The first one I actually made for that project was Make Believe, like the interlude in the middle.
Yeah.
That was that's the like OG. That's the only one from the original idea for the project that like made it.
That's kind of one of my favorite songs on there, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I like that one a
yeah.
lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I made that in my brother's old apartment when he first moved to LA. In like his bedroom, I set up my laptop on some like computer speakers and just like kind of whipped that up real quick. And then his then partner at the time was like, "You're being too loud. Turn it down." So, you know, but it was fine because it's like a 30-second song, so I didn't need to work on it that much.
Yeah.
But,
do you have a favorite song from the album?
It changes like all the time. I think right now it was sober for like a minute. It was sober as recently as like Friday when I played my show.
Yeah.
Because I did that one like solo on the guitar with like autotune and shit. So it was kind of fun.
That's great.
But like right now, right this second, like gun to my head, it's probably Cell Phone.
Okay, yeah.
But like it would change in like 20 minutes.
Sure. My favorite's Sober.
Okay, fuck
yeah. That song's just so catchy and good. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean I was afraid of what people would think of that song, just because like even like at my show when I performed it, I was joking like, okay, like can I kill the vibe for a second? But then people started chanting like kill the vibe,
yeah,
which ended up being funny, so it didn't worry me too much. But yeah, like that song, as much as I was worried about something just that like not a meme being on the, it's like like. It took a lot to be that vulnerable on a song.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being that vulnerable on a song was like a growing experience that I'm very happy for. But then it's another thing to be like vulnerable on a song like that and then know people are like going to hear it.
Right. Yeah.
Like, when I made that song, it was the best song I'd ever made.
Right.
So it was like, fuck yeah. Like this is that shit. Like I don't give a fuck like how TMI I'm being in the lyrics about like my life and my feelings. Like I'm just putting it out there. And then it's like, putting out the EP, it's like, oh, fuck, like, it might only be like 2 people, but like, at least like 2 people are going to hear this, and that's like weird.
Yeah. One of my top favorite bands is Passion Pit.
Word.
And I feel like they have this effect where their songs like sonically sound really happy, but then if you look at the lyrics, they're very sad.
Oh, yeah. That's the best juxtaposition ever. That's why I can hear my girlfriend cackling in the next room within the next 5 seconds because she fucking hates this band, and we were just like joking about it. But the 1975 is like my favorite band, and that's what I love about them too. Is like so much of their music is like major key and like very uplifting.
Yeah, and
the lyrics are like pretty either extremely self-deprecating or just straight up dark.
Mm-hmm.
And I always love that juxtaposition, and I guess there's a lot of that on my project too, huh?
Yeah,
like, it's even like DUI, like, right? Like that song is so, it literally uses like the 2 corny major progressions, which is like the 1-5-4, like da 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 da, and like the ba 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 ba, right? But like then the lyrics are about like killing dogs and kids while driving drunk and how that's like not good. So this is kind of funny.
I feel like nothing paints it more as an anti-drinking and driving song than those lyrics, though, because you're like here's what happens.
Yeah, because I mean like that shit is real, and I think like I don't know, I'm not like I have promised myself that I'm never gonna like talk about the discourse quote unquote around that song in a way where I'm like complaining about like people being sensitive or like cancel culture and stuff, because like the whole thing that about art that I think makes it valuable, in not like money valuable, but like social valuable, is the fact that it like can provoke dissenting opinions and create a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the idea that through some people like not realizing the angle that I'm coming from on that song, it's going to create a conversation in which like the inevitable consensus, no matter how hard some people are like leaning into the meme, like we all know that driving drunk is like a terrible thing to do, and that you're like going to kill someone if you do it, and that you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So it's funny seeing the way in which that consensus like comes about through conversation.
Well, the video also paints it as such a horrifying repercussion. How that video is so well made.
Shout out Mitchell Harris, GOAT. That's the GOAT.
It's so good. Yeah, no, the part where it's like just dying and blood is like exploding out of its head. It's so crazy looking.
It definitely, I was hyped that he chose to, the way that he highlighted those elements of it, I think was like perfect. I mean, that video is like his love child. Like I got to give him like all the credit for it. Like, that was luck that made that video happen. Straight up. Like, it was different folks living in this house at the time, but we used to throw parties like way more frequently. And it was someone's birthday party, or maybe it was after like a show we threw. I forget exactly why there were people over, but there were some homies here in a band called Buddha Trixie who actually, quick plug, I'm playing a show with them at Moroccan Lounge August 26th. So if you're listening to this and you live in LA, go to that. But anyway, quick plug, gotta be friendly and professional. But Buddha Trixie were over here, and their guitarist Andrew is like a really good producer. Like I think they're awesome songwriters. Like they just kind of, I think, started like they'd done a lot of stuff like recording in studios, but they were kind of like entering a period that like they're in now of like self-producing their stuff. And like we were in the garage. I think, this happened like all the time. Like I'm kind of an introvert. Like even having a party the other night was kind of a lot. So like when we'd throw parties here, I'd inevitably end up in the garage with whatever like two other people didn't feel like being in a big social setting and just like playing each other music. And so I was there with Andrew and Daniel from Buddha, and we were just kind of like playing each other shit we were working on. And one of the songs that I played was DUI, and Andrew really liked it. And he was like, yo, can I like send this to my brother who like does music videos? Like,
oh, cool.
I think he wasn't even like off the cuff, like, oh, like you guys should totally like have to link and make a music video. It was just like, I think he's really going to like it. I was like, yeah, like, of course. Like, I'm really flattered you'd want to show him that, like it wasn't out yet. I hadn't gotten like that many reactions to it besides like the people in my house that heard me working on it. So even that alone was like, oh, sick. Like someone likes it and thinks that someone else would like it. That's fire. And then, like Andrew gave Mitchell, his brother, my contact, and Mitchell hits me and is like, yo, I love this song. I have this whole like treatment for it. Like, do you want to read it? And then do you want to like get coffee and talk about like doing a video for it? And I was like, yeah. And what he sent me was the video, like as you see it, like written out. It was just so clearly envisioned and like every beat was accounted for.
Yeah.
And, like the meeting we had was essentially just to be like, yeah, like, let's do it. Like, how are we going to do it? What's the schedule like? Like, yada, yada. Like, let's make it happen.
How long did it take you guys to make? It seems like pretty high level, honestly, with the set design and the lighting.
I mean, that's a Mitchell question in terms of like the planning and the execution. In terms of actual shoot days, it was only 2 days, one of which I wasn't even there for. Like, I just did a lot of puppeteering on one day and kind of helping like set up. And then I was out of town the second day, but that was just mostly for like, I believe like green screen stuff and all the shots with like the car. So Mitchell and like actually some of the homies in Buddha like ended up doing that. So thank y'all for making my music video look amazing that day. By the way, got to say that on the record.
Yeah, it turned out great. And I think one of the compliments I could give it. Hello, who's this?
Oh, that's Bug. Bug is the house cat.
Hi, Bug. I feel like a lot of people are doing the puppets thing these days, and I usually dislike it. I thought it was really good in your guys's.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, I thought it just, the juxtaposition fit really well. I don't know, it's just a fun video. I don't know why. Like a lot of times when people do puppets, it feels a little bit forced to me, but it worked really well in your guys' context, I thought.
I think it was just because the idea came to Mitchell so easily. Like the whole, and it was funny that like when I first, because I mean, I had one like smaller TikTok moment off of posting that video before the like my sister one like did good. And when the video came out, like most of the criticism it got was people were like, you guys are ripping off Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, like yada yada. Whereas like that was literally like the reference he pulled up. Like the point was like kind of too it's like a pastiche of that. You know? Like we're not, I don't know. It was just funny. But
I think people are overly like critical of noticing inspiration. It's this weird where it's like art has always been built off of like being inspired by things.
Yeah, like nothing exists in a vacuum. You literally can't have creation in a vacuum. Like you make something when you fail to imitate the thing that inspired you.
Yeah.
Like that's where originality comes from.
Yeah, like obviously everyone's a critic is like such an old expression, but I think it's especially true these days because now that everybody takes pictures and videos, like everybody is like an editor and so people have more of a keen eye to things. Like I don't think like 50 years ago people were going to the movies and like the average person was like, oh, did you notice the editing? Like that wasn't like a common conversation.
Because everyone's like a quote unquote like creative these days. Like it's become like a like what is it, like a character preset now that
right.
you can just kind of pick. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I get where folks come from, but I agree with you. I think that now that the means to engage in creating art are like a lot more democratized, which is a great thing. I think it should be even more democratized, right?
Yeah.
But like with that accessibility comes like, you know, there's always going to be like some jackass that's like, I could have done that better, you know? And we're all that jackass sometimes, right? Like, you know, I'm not going to front on here and be like, I haven't like listened to a song and like real quick caught myself in that like, oh, but like if the mix was like this, like you don't want to be that person. But I think we all should admit that we are at one point. I heard we did at the Florida the Man release show here actually. We opened for a band called Holy Dose. That was really fire, by the way. That was like some fucking Death Grips ass shit. But I came out here, you know, once again on some introvert shit. Like show was over. I was like, all right, that's enough like interacting with people for today.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go in my living room and like play Dark Souls. And like some people came in to like use the bathroom or whatever. There's a little like line for the hallway bathroom over there.
Yeah.
And I overheard you know, your typical like Silver Lake, like dangly earring, like bro musician type, right? And it's two of them in the hallway having a conversation about how they thought that like, oh, like talking about like Holy Dose. They're like, oh, like that was cool or whatever, but I think it would have been better if there was more reverb on the vocals and like all this shit. And like, I don't know. I think talking like that about art is like kind of embarrassing.
Right.
Like to be like, oh, like if this had included this one minute detail that I thought of, it would have been better. I think that's silly. I don't know. I thought it was a very funny conversation to overhear. And then like the funniest part was like they walked out from the bathroom and saw that I'd just been like playing Dark Souls and like listening to that whole thing. And they got like really embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, like but although that's kind of baffling then, it's like, you know, that's pretentious. So like, why are you doing it? You know?
Yeah.
It's quite silly.
Yeah.
Quite silly.
You're able to talk in like a lot of detail about just like everything you're interested in.
I'm a geek. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, no, I love that. And with music, did you initially like listen to or create one type of thing and then you kind of were able to be exposed to a bunch of different worlds, or did you kind of start with a wide palette?
I mean, I guess like I grew up listening to a lot of different music. Although the shit that really moved me was like lullabies and film soundtracks. So I guess it wasn't like that diverse. It was a lot of like John Williams and Danny Elfman soundtracks.
Okay,
and
yeah,
then like
yeah.
Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Yeah.
And then like, but in terms of making music, yeah, like I started out doing like classical piano. Like my mom put me in lessons when I was 7. And then the first stuff I was playing on guitar was like dad rock. It was like, you know, like 25 or 6 to 4 by Chicago, like, you know, Doobie Brothers type shit.
Yeah.
And then like, I think the first stuff I learned like of my own volition was like Beatles stuff on the piano and like Nirvana on the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the variety just comes from like, I developed this habit really early on that I'm still in of like, I'll engage with like a genre or flavor of music for like a second and then just like fucking get distracted and like do something else and forget.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm like, my brain works in a very like, ooh, something shiny kind of way.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, you know, like I'll be like so deep in my Nirvana phase and I'll be like, oh my God, like, you know, I'm fucking listening to like the album cuts off of like In Utero and like trying to learn like Milk It. And then I hear this like John Mayer solo and I'm like, wait, that.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh wait, but like the groove on this like Sublime song is really interesting. And I really like the melody, like fucking, oh wait, like that comes from like Peter Tosh and Bob Marley and like Don Carlos, like this is cool. But then like, oh wait, like the 1975 Tumblr, like what? Like, and then, you know, from that, like Brockhampton, like 100 Gex, like, I don't know. I think yeah. Oh, Buggus Wuggus. Buggus Gubbus Wuggus. We're getting a good shot at Cat Shoal.
Yeah, this is a good shot.
She is such a ham. The fact, like, I don't know. She is the cat that like will come and look like straight in the camera. That's perfect.
I want to take a picture. That's very funny.
No, Bug stay. Oh, she's gonna show butt. She's gonna show hole.
She's gonna show hole.
Damn.
She's like so cool. She's on the edge to getting me terminated.
The thumbnail has to be that with like a censored block on it. Oh, she did it. You're good. Buggus.
I really like that Nirvana cover you had on your SoundCloud.
Oh, thank you.
That was all apologies. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's funny about that? Two completely different people told me that the drums sounded like Sugar Ray on that. Like, and then I listened to Sugar Ray and I was like, oh fuck, they're right.
That's really funny.
Because like for me, I was like, oh, I'm gonna do this Nirvana cover with like auto-tune and like a blown out 808, and it's gonna be like hard as shit. And then I played it for people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like Sugar Ray, that's cool."
Have you seen the clip of Dave Grohl talking to Pharrell about his drumming?
Yeah, like the Gap Band influencing the drum parts on Nevermind.
Yeah. I think All Apologies has been kind of turning into maybe my favorite Nirvana song.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It was Breed for a while.
Breed is awesome.
Breed is so cool.
Like, I mean, I think what makes Nirvana awesome is just like, it's, you know, like classic chuggy, I guess, what's it called? Like Observation. But like any Nirvana song, and you know, not their production was never even that crazy. Like the glossiest it got was the stuff on Nevermind. But all those songs, when played on just like a guitar and like with like Kurt's voice, like guitar melody lyrics, right? Brilliant songs. The essence is so like potent. You could do that song any way. It's like fucking like Leonard Cohen Hallelujah or something. Right. Like it's just such like Kurt wrote so many ubiquitous songs. I mean, he's my favorite songwriter ever, like bar none, you know, like, so it's kind of cool how like, you know, you could do Breed as like a jazz lounge shuffle.
Right.
You could do All Apologies as a hyperpop song and it's going to work.
Yeah.
Because the song behind it can withstand any kind of production.
I think that's when a cover is really exciting, is when the artist makes it sound like a whole new song.
Yeah.
Because sometimes covers will just kind of sound sort of identical to the source material, and there's not like much added benefit.
Which is a fun like exercise, I think, if you as a musician are trying to like dig into how that recording was made. But yeah, no, I agree. I think it's just always cooler to like do the cover a little differently. And then like to speak to like the other thing, like that also tends to not only show the strength of the cover, but show the strength of the original song.
Yeah.
Like, there's a couple I'm thinking of, like, I don't know if you've heard like the Lake Street Dive version of Rich Girl by Hall & Oates.
No.
That's cool. That's just literally like her singing and like an upright bass and like a trumpet.
Oh, that's
doing
cool.
Rich Girl, and it's so ill. Like,
you just remind me. I remember my family would watch American Idol growing up.
Same.
And I remember there was this one season where the guy, he came in like third or fourth. So nobody remembers him probably, but I wanted him to win because he had this cool like raspy voice, and he wasn't the type of guy who normally would win. And he did a Nirvana song, and he played an upright bass.
Yes, I remember
Wasn't
that guy.
so cool?
There was the guy that like kind of looked like Seth Rogen.
Yeah.
He also did Fat Bottom Girls with Jack Black on that season.
Yeah.
What? Okay, yo, if whoever that guy is, like, not that I don't know if you'd be listening to this or not, but if anyone knows who that is, I want to collab. I want to get him on a song.
I want to Google it right now.
You know who I want to do a song with really bad that was like insane that should have won?
Huh.
Do you remember Crystal Bauer Socks?
That sounds very familiar.
She like looked super just like kind of gnarly and had like the dreads.
Yeah.
But had that gorgeous like Janis Joplin voice.
I found the guy.
Okay, what's his name?
Casey Abrams.
Casey Abrams. Goat.
He was cool.
It wasn't your best performance or the best vocal or anything, but I like that you're fearless.
You are.
That's what we need. Fearlessness. Come on.
Thanks, Casey.
I want to get Casey Abrams, Crystal Bauer Socks in the studio.
Yeah, I remember her name for sure, actually. Yeah.
With autotune. I want to just honestly, like, fuck this solo artist shit. I want my thing to be taking American Idol winners and like making hyperpop with it, or American Idol like runners up and making hyperpop with them.
Just a bunch of bands with different American Idol runner-ups.
Literally. Make hyperpop, make fucking, I don't know. Cause like, I love the idea of like, you know, it was rap. It still is kind of rap. Like, and I think before that it was like, you know, like 80s rock or whatever. But like, there's always been, I think, like a kind of music that like, or I guess American Idol runners up is not a good example for the concept I'm about to illustrate because they're all like literally musicians.
Yeah.
But I guess this kind of just like drove me to think about something else, which is like, there's always been like a kind of music in culture that like non-musicians, like athletes and shit, and like, you know, TV stars can just dip their toes into music by making. Like it was like pop punk in the early 2000s, right? Like, you know, all these Disney stars were like making pop punk.
Right.
Like, all these like basketball players will like make like rap albums. Like LeBron's got like songs out. Like
Shaq has songs.
Yeah, like fucking
The Rock has a song now.
Yeah, like The Rock has a song. Like John Cena's got songs.
It's about
like,
drive. It's about power.
Yeah. Like I would love for hyperpop to be that for a generation of people.
That'd be interesting.
Like I want to make like a hyperpop song with like Steph Curry. You know?
Yeah.
Shit like that would be crazy. Like you get like, or I don't like, I mean, admittedly, I don't know shit about sports. I don't like, you know, I say Steph Curry because like to me, it's like him and LeBron are like, okay, I know them.
Yeah.
They are sportsman, you know, but like,
let's get Devin Booker in here.
I have no idea who that is, but if he's trying to make hyperpop, I'm down. That would be fire.
Yeah.
Yo, you know who I really want to make hyperpop with that's like not from this generation, but that like I feel like was born to make it?
Who?
Dennis Rodman.
I don't know why my brain just went Danny DeVito.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean...
Dennis Rodman.
I'd want to make like Tom Waits type shit with Danny DeVito.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good. I'd want to make like seedy dive bar, like plinky plonky honky tonk piano, evil... I want to make shit with Danny DeVito that you could imagine like a crocodile singing. you know what I mean?
The crocodile subgenre needs a resurgence.
Yeah, we gotta go.
Exactly what you
DeVito, where you at? But yeah, like, cause like I said, I don't know shit about sports. I generally don't care about sports that much. I whenever I'm in a situation though where I'm watching basketball, I love it. Because it's just so kinetic and awesome.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I'm not really a sports person, but if I gotta watch one, like basketball just seems like easily the most interesting.
It's so fire. Like there's a dynamic to it and like a flow to it. Like I don't like how like, you know, American football like stops and starts. I'd say like, you know,
it's always on pause.
Yeah.
The game's always paused.
Football/soccer. I feel so pretentious calling it football first. Like that's how you know I'm trying to sound smart on here. But like football. But like I'd say that occupies a similar space to basketball for me in terms of it just being like really kinetic and awesome to watch. But to go back to Dennis Rodman, like what I like about him is, you know, I think largely my you know, I'll be the first to admit that my indifference towards sports is largely a forced one because like, you know, and I'm sure like a lot of queer and like trans people probably had like a similar experience to me, right? Of like being forced into sports and, you know, sports really as a vessel for masculinity or, you know, in other folks' case, like femininity playing certain sports, right? Like sports really love to enforce like gender roles.
Yeah.
And I think like being pushed into that, Buggus. Bugs like, y'all are talking about trans shit. I'm coming. But yeah, like I think through like being kind of forced into a box via sports as like a kid, like it kind of fostered in me this resentment of sports that turned into, like I said, like a forced indifference.
Yeah.
Like I'll pretend to like fuck sports. We don't need them. Even though they're kind of cool. Like, like I said, like you put basketball on, I'm going to watch that shit and be super into it. But like, if you ask me like at a party or something, if I fuck with sports, I'm be like, no. But what I fuck with Dennis Rodman so hard as a figure in sports because sports has like, I cannot think of another sport. Sports nerds in the comments like correct me on this, right? Like I guess I don't have the reference point.
Yeah.
But to my knowledge, there's not another person like Dennis Rodman that was walking into like men's basketball, like dyeing his hair crazy colors, like wearing like nail polish, like wearing crazy sunglasses, like dressing like a fucking, not only like a rock star, but like being in the 90s and dressing like you make hyperpop to go on the basketball court and like play basketball is the hardest shit. Like, I think that's so cool. And like, it baffles me as to why like there's only one. But I mean, also like in sports, I feel like that's so crazy that there can only really be one Dennis Rodman, right? Like if anyone else were to do that now, it'd be like, oh, like in the same way as like there's this quote from John Mayer where it's like I brought up John Mayer like way too many times. In this
He's
interview,
a better
by the
guitar
way.
player than I think people realize. I get it.
He's amazing. Like very weirdly formative in like my music or whatever. But like he has this quote about Jimi Hendrix where it's like you can tell in other people, like not even talking about like musicality but fashion. Like you can look at someone and like, John Mayer's quote was like, you'd be like, oh, he got to you, didn't he? Like about Jimmy. I feel that way kind of about Kurt, by the way. Like I know I'm doing another digression. You can tell when Kurt's gotten to someone with fashion, especially these days because Kurt's fashion sense is so like imbued into hip hop.
Right.
But, like even like the way I dress is like very like, Kurt inspired, and like that's as like a girl, like Kurt didn't wear, like I don't look at Kurt Cobain and be like that's like men's fashion. It's kind of just a ubiquitous, like it's a very like raggedy, like kind of just magpie-ish grabbing things that look pretty and adorning yourself. I love that approach. And like Dennis Rodman's kind of similar. Like I think, if someone else were to come into basketball or any sport and like do that, they'd just be like, oh, you're like doing Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's been a handful of players that have been known for like cool glasses or goggles and stuff, but Dennis Rodman really was like a one of one guy.
Well, because like cool glasses and goggles is one thing. It's like, I think like one football player, like, like painted his nails pink for like breast cancer or something.
Sure.
But like to go onto the basketball court on national TV, in a space where like traditional masculinity is like everything, and like your hair is like a green spider web.
Yeah.
You're wearing like red nails and like lipstick and like fucking The Matrix sunglasses. And then just like fucking, I mean, like once again, I don't know shit about sports, but I'm pretty sure he was mostly like a defensive player, right?
I don't really know.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
I was about to say dunking on people.
I know less
like,
than I may have made it seem.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I don't know if Dennis Rodman's thing was like dunking on people. We're going to use the phrase dunking on people as like a parable here. But like to be dressed like that and then go on the court and, metaphorically dunk on people, because I don't know if he was playing offense or not. Like, that's fire.
Those figurative
and that
dunks
cannot be replicated. And like, I think almost like, it's funny because like then by comparison, like the whole dressing like a rock star thing is so safe in music. We're expected to do that. Like
one thing Jack White said that I thought was interesting is how like bands in the past would dress really nice, performers in general would, from comedians to bands. They might like wear a suit or a tuxedo or something. And he was saying how like with counterculture, people would just kind of start showing up in like t-shirts and jeans, like just wearing their clothes, you know? And he said that he finds it funny because it was like this rebellion against wearing a uniform, but he was like, you're just wearing the new uniform.
Yeah. Whereas like, I don't know. And that's what makes it so much crazier in sports to me. Cause like there's even like, like there's the whole, what some random hipster would call like normcore in like music. It's like, dressing normal is still like a dash core, normal, or like dressing generic.
Yeah.
Like I think it's like, I would love to see, cause I just can't think of it off the top of my head. Like, how do you subvert fashion in a musical space? Cause the thing about sports is like I think maybe it's because of the uniforms. It's because there are uniforms that are required in sports. Because like the idea of subverting that becomes crazy. It's like, imagine like going to like Catholic school and like dressing like Dennis Rodman in like your Catholic school uniform. It's kind of like that,
Right.
Whereas that doesn't exist in music because like we're technically allowed to wear whatever we want. So I wonder if that kind of fashion subversion can truly exist in music because there's no required uniform. So we are always creating our own uniforms.
Well, you'll get figures like Lady Gaga that's just doing the most out there shit ever, and then everybody's talking about it.
That's still like, like it's subversive in the moment, but then like everyone's gonna start copying it.
Yeah.
Like you can't really copy Dennis Rodman because that was a thing that could only really happen once. and anything that happens after it is just going to be Rodman core.
Rodman
That's
core.
fire. I can't believe he like got so fucked up that he just like woke up in North Korea one time and like became friends with Kim Jong-un.
I was about to say, he's so cool he became friends with Kim Jong-un.
That's crazy.
It's like him and Steven Seagal can pull that off.
Oh my god, Steven fucking Seagal. I feel like music needs a Steven Seagal. the Dennis Rodman of music would actually be the Steven Seagal of music. Yeah, I think our most iconic exports of the US are just people that have been in North Korea.
People who have figured that out.
That's it. I'm going to North Korea, y'all. I don't know. I don't think I have like the composure to do well. And I have a big mouth and I'm very curious.
Yeah, they like secrets.
Yeah, like I don't know. You gotta behave a certain way. Also, I don't know. You have to be like fucking like famous to be like allowed to be that in North Korea. And like, you know, fucking like even like Henry Rollins, like I saw an interview with him where he like went to North Korea and like he almost got in trouble because he didn't tell anyone he was in like a punk band that was really well known, like Black Flag, you know, like there's a threshold. Like if you're Dennis Rodman, you can go there and because like everyone loves it also like kind of goes to show like how much more popular sports are than music. Like I don't know. I think any random athlete probably has over like 1 million Instagram followers, but like in the musical space, like it's like the Ariana Grandes and the Doja Cats that have like 1 million.
Right.
Like, you know, and the same thing is like Henry, like in musician spaces, like these days, like fucking loads of people know who Black Flag is, but like Black Flag isn't well known enough in North Korea, so that I'm being so like fried about explaining this, but like basically Henry Rollins goes to North Korea and you know, doesn't tell anyone he's in like a famous band, but like one person on a tour bus recognizes him, and like, you know, people who are famous that aren't like athlete famous to where like the supreme leader of the country fucks with you aren't like allowed to go
of
to North Korea. So like, you know, he starts getting sussed out on the tour bus for like, oh, like who are you, like yada yada. But yeah, it's funny. Damn, that got me on a whole other tangent because like athletes are crazy famous. So many more people like watch sports than like keep up with popular music.
Well, even within music, sometimes it is like crazy to see how big things are. Like, isn't like Garth Brooks the biggest
selling artist of all time?
Yeah.
That's kind of because of a finesse he did where he did kind of a side project at the same. I'm butchering this.
Chris Gaines.
Was that it?
Well, he had like another alias.
Yeah,
Chris Gaines.
That did really well, like with a Walmart only deal.
Yeah,
it was kind of through finessing, but like, yeah, like he is technically like the best selling artist ever.
Do you ever watch those music covers on Triple J on YouTube?
Yeah, the Denzel Curry Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, oh, so good.
Hard.
Childish Gambino did a Chris Gaines cover.
Really?
Yeah.
That's hard.
And my only leading theory as to why he did that, besides it being really funny, is that the initials are CG. But I love that he did that.
That's fire.
Yeah,
that's so hard.
Garth Brooks is like a scary guy.
I can't picture what he looks like. That reminds me of did you ever watch like the TV show Archer?
A little bit.
Okay, so there was like a companion like book they put out with it. And there was like this whole bit in it, like there's a whole tangent about how like no one knows what Steve Miller looks like.
That's so
like,
true.
Steve Miller Band, like as long as you're in a certain age bracket, you could walk into a club in Hollywood and be like, I'm Steve Miller, and get like free bottle service. Because like those songs are ubiquitous. Like everyone knows those songs, but no one knows what the fuck Steve Miller looks like.
I'm Zach Brown Band.
Really?
No.
Oh my god. Fucking
but nobody knows what they look like either. I feel like
to your earlier point though with Garth Brooks, or I guess it wasn't, you weren't even making a point. You like brought up Garth Brooks and then I went on a fried tangent.
No, you're good. I enjoy all this.
Like yeah, like Garth Brooks to me is like a Steve Miller-esque figure. Like I couldn't put a face to the name.
Yeah.
If you were wearing like a big hat and came up to me with a little bit of twang in your voice and like you look like you're old enough to have been famous in the 90s, I'll believe it. You know.
This is a hard pivot, but when you were in Fashion Jackson, did you guys name Gossamer after Passion Pit, or is that just a coincidence?
It's just a coincidence.
Okay.
It was kind of just like a random word.
Sure.
I was like, you know, I was in this weird, I was kind of going through my Tumblr era when that song got made. I was kind of like, ooh, like I want to evoke like, that was my like drinking heavily and like smoking cigarettes, and like I was still like kind of boy moding, but I was like starting to paint my nails type shit.
Sure.
So that was like that phase of my life. That was like, I think the beginning of Fashion Jackson was like, what, I don't know, like that was weirdly like my baby trans era. That was like kind of like, I think my dipping my toes into like getting to experience facets of like the teenage girlhood that I never like got to. But like through that, my inner 1975 fan was like, I'm going to take this like beautiful word and like name an unrelated song after it. Like type shit, you know, like the same kind of Tumblrness that would be like, you know, scrolling through your feed and seeing like Sonder in like Times New Roman, like the phenomenon of realizing that like everyone has like a complex worldview and perspective, and then like being like so true reblog. Like that was kind of my headspace like in early FJ days. So in a long-winded way, that's where like the Gosper title comes from. I was just like, ooh, silken, beautiful. Oh, Bug.
Hi, Bug.
Buggus.
This is a great cat.
Oh, she's awesome. She's like super chatty. She like just wants attention. Like, I don't know. She's a cutie.
Yeah, I was curious because Passion Pit's second album is also called Gossamer, and that's like one of my favorite albums.
Okay, bet. I didn't know they had an album called that.
Yeah, it's their second one, and they're interesting because like I would not call their band hyperpop per se, but in some ways like it feels like a precursor to me in the sense that like it is a band playing all instruments, but it all sounds like so digital and synthesized that like I can't really make heads or tails of like what's what, you know? And I feel like that definitely helped me form a palette for I think some of this more modern music.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I mean like all of that stuff like in my head, I think when you get music that's like that, where it's like hard to square the presentation, be it the instruments folks play with like the sound of it, like to me that all just kind of becomes like music core, you know? Like at the end of it, like it becomes just so like defiant of a categorization that it's kind of just music. Like that's why I love Gex. Like that's why I love how Dylan Brady like tattooed the fucking giant eighth notes on his chest. Because like when I hear their music, I don't hear like hyperpop or like, oh, they're like utilizing elements of dubstep and bubblegum bass to like convey a generational distaste with modernity. It's like I'm like these two are like sitting here and like just fucking laughing their ass off and being like, haha, like music.
Yeah,
you know, like
having a silly, goofy time.
Because it's like it's just making music. It's just tickling the lizard brain. And I feel like, you know, the way I haven't listened to a ton of Passion Pit, but you describing them like that, I can hear that ethos in both that description and like the stuff that I've heard of them.
Sure. Yeah, I could recommend some songs. They're really
sick.
good.
You got to make me a playlist.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. We're about at 2 hours, so we can kind of start to.
Has it been 2 hours?
Yeah.
Brazy. That's insane.
I feel like I have a few things I should ask you while I'm here.
Okay,
It's
cool.
fine. I'll do research, and I'm like, oh, the question I'm gonna ask when I run out of things, like I don't even get to it till the end.
Yeah, I talk a lot.
No, that's good. I've definitely talked to people before where it's like a little bit more difficult, so it makes it a lot easier.
Like
for
we were
me.
talking about, like about like the mysterious shit.
Yeah,
I'm the least mysterious hyper popper out there. I talk too much and have a big mouth, so ask me anything.
I'm definitely fighting for non-mysterious core because I much prefer like long, genuine statements than
it's
like
so
aloofness.
overrated. I don't know, like and like I don't know. It's fucking like when you remember that people are out here being mysterious on like Instagram. It's like come the fuck on.
I know. I hate being cryptic. It's not fun.
No, like I don't know. Bring back long captions. Fall Out Boy had a point when they were doing like long song titles. I think that needs to come back.
Remember when Fiona Apple made that album title that's like a fucking novel?
Which one is it?
God, it's so long. It's like a 20-word album title.
I haven't properly like done my Fiona Apple phase yet. I love everything I've heard, but like there's that like trans meme of like my womanhood has taken me places I wouldn't go with a gun. I think like when my womanhood takes me places I wouldn't go with like a giant anime fucking chainsaw sword.
Yeah.
That's my Fiona Apple phase. I'm kind of saving it for that.
Gosh, what? The idler wheel is wiser than the driver of the screw, and the whipping cord will serve you more than ropes will ever do.
Gas.
That's the name of the album.
Amazing. Okay, I'm gonna listen to that.
I think it like got nominated for stuff too. Some people had to read that long fucking thing.
Based. It's like that. Fucking. That's probably why the 1975 did that too. The whole like, I like it when you sleep, for you are so beautiful yet so unaware of it.
Yeah.
Not as cool as that though. Could you read that one more time?
Yes. 2010's. Wait, is it 2010? Or did I make that up? 2012's Fiona Apple album. The idler wheel is wiser than the driver of the screw, and whipping cords will serve you more than the ropes will ever do.
Based.
Really dope.
Incredibly based.
Yeah, one of my I'd never heard of her, and one of my friends like gave me the physical CD of that as like a present in high school, and I was like, what is this?
She's awesome. I love that one acceptance speech she did the one time where she was just like, don't look up to like me or any of these people, or like she like, I don't know, talking about like, oh, like the most nightmarish thing I've ever done was when I was dating Paul Thomas Anderson, and we all just got like high on coke and like watched their movies while they talked about it in their private theater.
Yeah.
Or what was it? Like, I really fucked with like Fetch the Bolt Cutters. I love that she just like, without even like issuing any kind of statement, like she was kind of having a TikTok moment, and they just took all her shit off there because she was like, she just didn't like the videos people were making.
Oh, that's funny.
I don't know. Yeah, like I haven't, once again, my womanhood just hasn't taken me to places that I wouldn't go with a giant anime sword, but like, I fuck with her ethos from what I know.
Yeah.
That's a person that, like, without having dove in her music as much as I'd like to, I would very much like to have a conversation with.
Sure, yeah.
Because, like, sense. I mean, like, you know, a lot of people like to pretend like they're the kind of artist that would, like, only do it on their terms. But, like, you know, to me, like, playing mysterious on Instagram doesn't evoke that. To me, like, being like a Fiona Apple does. Like, to me, like, taking your shit, like, all your shit off TikTok because you just like didn't like one video you saw is like based.
It's really funny.
Yeah.
I remember Kid Cudi was pissed that people were using day and night. Like he didn't really understand the format of the app.
Oh, but like that meme's so good. And it's, I don't know. I think that format's like not even that like derisive of him. Like it's literally just, I don't know. It'll be like a fucking wolf anime character chilling. Like, you know, it's literally like the lonely stoner, like freeing their mind at night. Like,
yeah.
Sometimes that looks like a wolf with like a big penis. And I think that's okay.
I love that meme. It's like the painting of the wolf with like human legs just sitting by a tree looking out at the moon.
It's like, that's the shit I'm on today.
Yeah.
I love the meme format of like inside you there are two wolves. I say that a lot like IRL. Like whenever I can't make a decision between two things, this will be like in a verbal conversation, which tells me I need to be on the internet not as much.
I think some memes like that now are just becoming modern idioms.
Yeah.
Like that's just like a way of explaining something.
No, 100%. And I also love how like idioms and philosophical ideas are finding a second life through meme culture.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Sisyphus is a meme now. Like how fucking funny is that? Like that was a, you know, a fable, like a Greek myth about, you know, endlessly rolling a boulder up a hill that's supposed to, you know, serve as the meme serves the same function as the myth.
Yeah.
It's to illustrate an endless struggle. But that fable finding a second life through the meme is just like too funny. Like you got like, I don't know, you got like fucking like 16-year-olds using like talking about Sisyphus. I think that shit's so lit.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Know. That's dope. I also sound like such a millennial using the phrase lit like that.
No, lit is good.
I'm going to start calling people Zoomers that are younger than me.
Well,
I'll be like, these Zoomers.
It's hard because I feel like when it comes to slang, like throughout history, it's just all of us being a bunch of goofy goobers, like saying like funny sounding words that nobody is saying. And then everybody thinks it's hilarious, but then like younger people are like, that sounds stupid. So it's like all slang is at one point cool and then later like stupid. So I feel like resisting that is kind of hard sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can't. It's just kind of the way the pendulum swings. I think we need to bring back Prohibition era slang. You know, like I was reading some recently, and some of this shit is like so fun. Also, I'm sorry, I realized we're doing like none of the last.
No, you're good. You're good. This is fine. I mean, I'm not really in a time crunch. I just don't want to take up too much of yours.
Oh yeah, no, you're good. I mean, like we don't got to go like 3 hours or anything.
Yeah.
What's some
Well, I saw some like footage. It was black and white, maybe from like the 70s or the 80s or something like that. And like people were saying, "Gag me with a spoon."
Oh,
and I'm like, what? That sounds so modern.
That's so like kinky. that sounds some like daddy shit, you know, like the shit that we're on. Like,
They were saying it because they were annoyed. She's like, "Gag me with a spoon with that."
That's funny. Bring that back.
Yeah, that one's good.
Gag me with a spoon. It's grody to the max. Gag me with a spoon. It's totally, yeah.
I didn't know the phrase "it girl" was from the 20s. I thought that was like a 90s tabloid shit.
Oh, that's from that long ago?
Calling people doll. I mean, not in the way now. Because like now it's like the dolls are like the trans girls. But like dolls for just girls is a 20s thing. So I guess we kind of have like we we transsexuals reclaimed that one. I think all trans people should reclaim all 1920s slang. I think bearcat can mean a really funny thing.
Yeah.
Oh, heartthrobs from the 20s. From now on, only trans men can be heartthrobs. I'm sorry. That's canon. Oh my God. Okay, you're not even gonna believe me that these are real. Okay, these are all slangs for being intoxicated. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Bent, canned, fried, plastered. Do you remember ones that we say now?
Yeah.
But are you ready? Blotto. Splifficated. No, splifflicated. Zozzled.
Wait, hold on. I need a moment. Splifficated?
Splifflicated.
That's so good.
Zozzled, and then are you ready?
Yeah.
Boiled as an owl.
I'm boiled as an owl.
My ass is boiled as an owl off this fucking ketamine. Like, imagine.
Zozzled?
Oh, yeah, Zozzeld's crazy. Okay, wait.
Zozzled, zooted.
Wait, if you want to drink, you know one's onions.
You know one's onions?
That's crazy. Like a juice joint is an illegal ball. That makes sense. You might tell that goof to scram, beat it, get back at his jalopy and step on it. If someone pisses me off, like, I'm not going to say like in the club because I've never been to a club. Like, I don't leave this house unless I like have to.
Yeah.
But like, if somebody IRL, if somebody outside pisses me off, I'm going to tell them to get in their jalopy and step on it. That's a word that my brother and I think is hilarious that doesn't get used enough, is the phrase jalopy to mean like a shit car.
I love that word.
It's so good. Like, did you ever play did you ever go through like a PC gamer phase? Like, did you play like Half-Life or Gary's Mod ever?
No, I play like Overwatch on PC, but no, not really.
There's a car, because Gary's Mod was a game where it was kind of a physics sandbox game that used the engine from Half-Life 2.
Well, actually, I would play Gary's Mod at my friend's house, but I don't think we knew how to take it to the level that other, like what it is now where people are in servers. We were just in a sandbox, like attaching like guns to things.
That's the fun way to play it.
Yeah.
I don't know, like me and my brother were never like building functioning computers in it like some people were, but like there's like a car from Half-Life 2 episode 2 that you could spawn into Gary's Mod. There's a junky beat ass car that was called the Jalopy. And I thought at the time that Jalopy was that model of car. It was like kind of like an old like Dodge like Challenger looking car.
Mm-hmm.
But then like we found out later that Jalopy just means like a piece of shit, and it's so funny. Like I won't give away too much, but my next release, I guess like not the next video I'm putting out, but the video for the next song that is coming out, in which I am on.
Yes.
Involves some jalopy antics. So that's all I'm gonna say. But
that was a press statement.
Yeah,
10 out of 10.
Print that. Yeah, I need to start. We need to bring back. You know, what we need to bring back for musicians that the internet's kind of killed is press conferences.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I want to be standing at a podium in front of like 7 microphones, like with like camera shutters going, talking about like my next drunk driving song.
Yeah, like NWA sitting at a conference. I
love
that.
What if that was my career? What if I just kept doing drunk driving songs? What if I made that my thing?
That's like how you tee off every album.
Yeah.
That's your track.
Like
that's your track one.
Just like, what if I just started every album with DUI?
That's like your
Unchanged.
That'd be kind of crazy.
I'm doing music in like 30 years and I'm making like a fucking like neo soul album, but I started with this recording of DUI that I put out. That's fire. I'm kind of.
That's your Pixar short film that plays before everything.
God damn. Oh my god. We need to make. That's good. I think it would be cool if more people precipitated albums with like an EP that's like a Pixar short film. Like we need like a non sequitur.
Yeah.
To like bring about the thing, or like you could even do that with like. The Beatles would put out like A-side, B-side singles that weren't on the album before the albums, right? Like, Hey Jude and Revolution aren't on the White Album, but they stand alone. Like, gotta bring that back. Okay.
I remember when Jack White started doing his solo albums, he had a single called, I don't remember what it was called, but he put out, when he put it out as a single on Spotify, it had like a B-side, and the B-side was not promoted at all, and it's like a U2 cover that they used in like The Great Gatsby with Leonardo DiCaprio. I think it's called Love Is Blindness or something like that, and it like is so sick. And I loved discovering that singles would like come with like a little extra thing that you wouldn't realize is there.
Which like I think there's got to be a way to do that in the streaming age. I mean, people already do like the new like, you know, industry whatever thing. It's not even that new, but like the waterfall method, right? Where it's like you put out a song but you include the last song you put out on it to like game streams.
Right.
And like I don't know, I get it. I've always been a little like averse to that. I'm really glad that my manager like doesn't make me do that.
Yeah.
He's a goat for that, but I feel like using something similar to that concept, you could somehow bring back B-sides. I think it would just be cool if you like promoted a song and then you just like you made it the norm to tag on another song under it.
How do you even feel about like the distinction between albums, EPs, and mixtapes? Because I feel like we're at this point where albums keep getting shorter to the point that they basically are EPs, and then mixtapes are basically albums, and it's like so hard to distinguish.
I think that terminology just comes from like formats that don't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
So like now it's all like colloquialism. Like, you know, back in the day, like an LP is just like a record that exceeds a certain amount of minutes and that is like a literal, like, you know, width in inches of an album.
Yeah.
Right? Like an EP is just a shorter one that'll have like fewer songs on it because it's like a shorter album. You know, then a single is really short because it's enough for like one song on a record player.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, like a mixtape is, and, you know, like I wasn't into hip hop yet in the era where mixtapes were like king, so I'm not gonna like pretend to know a lot about it.
Sure.
But to my understanding, it generally is like stuff that you'll put out online or like literally sell it, you know, like on the street, like for free.
Yeah.
Or for like a couple bucks that like has like samples that you can't clear.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, maybe you're rapping over like someone else's beat, like, you know. And mixtapes are cool because like there becomes like so much context for that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's probably like a reason that like Lil Wayne is rapping over like this old like Jay-Z beat, you know, like yada yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think mixtapes are actually really cool because the definition of them is so nebulous. Like, and then there was a whole debate not that many years ago about like what constitutes a mixtape or an album, and like, you know, like my favorite like run of Young Thug projects, all of which feel like albums, were all just called mixtape because like his label wanted to like prolong the idea of him putting out like his first album.
Yeah, that's kind of where it seems to all converge towards, because it's weird because now that your like personal mythos as an artist is so public through online, it's put on such a pedestal that you're putting out a project or like a collective body of work no matter what it's called. And so I feel like everything from an EP to a mixtape is treated with the seriousness as an album, so it's almost just like a buffer from not calling it your debut album.
Yeah, and it's made people just scared to put out albums though.
Yeah,
which I don't fuck with.
That's it seems like a bit of a problem to me in some way, because also like Chance the Rapper is like such a famous example where it's like The Big Day is his first album. It's like, dude, that's like your like fourth album.
And also like that made that because like that album just kind of was like, you know, once again, I'll just speak objectively. This is my opinion, but I thought that shit was kind of mid.
Yeah.
And like that shit coming out like that, being like the album he's been teasing for so long, was like,
It was sad too, because the year before that was when Kanye had produced 5 albums, 2 for himself and then 3 for other artists.
Yeah.
And Chance was like famously like running around everywhere being like, I'm getting the next one. But then obviously like that never came.
Yeah.
And so I think he like took matters into his own hands and just kind of made something. And people didn't like it too much.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like, man, we all know this isn't actually your debut album. Like,
No,
like acid rap and, you know, like Coloring Book became the first like mixtape or whatever to like win Grammys.
Yeah. Also, that fucking project is so underrated. Like, I mean, it was like
It's
a big
kind of my
deal when it
favorite
came
one.
out. It's great. Like the gospel influences and shit. That fucking song with Future, I'm like about to go listen to that like outside when I have a cigarette because I just love it so much. Like,
Yeah.
The song Smoke Break. Future fucking goes crazy on that one. But yeah, also to bring up The Big Day, I think that gave Chance his Chili Peppers trope. Like Chance's
Yeah.
like Chance the Rapper's Scuba Dooba Debop California is I love my wife. You know what I mean?
I love my wife.
Like that.
we're gonna go to the beach and play with a beach ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
I love God and my wife.
I wonder what mine's gonna be. I want to have like
drunk driving.
Oh, I hope not. I mean, but like my saying that is already speaking it into existence. Maybe it will be. I don't know. I'd have to make a couple more drunk driving songs. I think I'd have to really cement it.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be like just the idea of an unhinged subject matter if you just make more stuff like that at all.
We'll see. I don't know. I mean, like, but even the idea of that being a thing, I feel like has already steered me away from it.
Yeah.
I definitely, there's a certain apprehension I feel to like putting out music now that's like, not even necessarily quote unquote like serious, but that just like isn't like a meme or like seems like it's trying to be controversial.
Mm-hmm.
Like part of me fears that now that I've kind of, stuck my foot in the door by doing just something really memey and like polarizing or whatever, that like no one's gonna care if I do stuff that's like actually like genuine.
Yeah.
But then like I try to remember that like I get DMs like every day about like my whole record, like folks that like say Sober is their favorite song or this and that.
Yeah.
And like I try to remind myself that like those songs almost hit more, it seems, because like people's first impression of me is like the meme drunk driving song.
Mm-hmm.
So
people love to be pleasantly surprised by something that they judged initially, I think.
And like that's what I feel like trying to do with the presentation of that record. I like the idea that it can start with this like meme song, but then by the end of it, it's like, oh fuck, like there's like actual real emotions being expressed here. Like that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I kind of fuck with that notion. I don't know if it comes off that way because I made it, so I can't really speak on it.
Sure.
But I like to hope so.
Yeah. No, it's really good. And I think that just like having the character like pleading for help and all of that, like there's definitely a lot being said there. It's not like a one-dimensional song, I don't think.
Well, thank you. I mean, I hope not. I mean, that whole record, I hope that it conveys the idea of like converting rage to joy through like, the experience of working through shit and like confronting it. Cause that was, like I didn't on purpose write it okay. Like I shouldn't say on purpose. I didn't specifically literally write it about that experience, but the year that I was having, through making those songs was definitely like the beginning of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be a lot more like, I've told myself that like now, now that I'm finally at a point where like anyone even like wants to interview me, right? Like I'm not going to start being like, all right, like the album is like, yeah, like I'm not going to start like talking about like my next shit like too much.
Yeah.
But my next project is a lot more of that. It's kind of like, it's a lot more of a synthesis of like specifically like the year, I'd say like the 2022 I had was a lot of like self-discovery and like working through like a lot of negative emotions that like I'd kind of internalized since childhood and like converting them to joy through like feeling love and like self-discovery. And like those are themes I want to explore more going forward. So I think without giving too much away like about the music that is going to illustrate that, I'm curious to see what the reaction will be to that from folks that like know me as like the bitch that made the drunk driving song.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I want that to be fun too. Like I want it to, I want to from here be putting out shit that makes people go like, oh, like the bitch who did the drunk driving song did that. Like, like.
Yeah. And I think as long as you make something good and genuine, that's just like such a long game payoff, because sometimes it's just stuff that people get later. Like there's so many accounts of people who didn't like 808s and Heartbreak or Yeezus until like a year after. Like, oh, I was just wrong the whole time.
And those are like I'm sorry, those in the Life of Pablo are like objectively the best Kanye albums.
Yeah. Oh, Life of
my
Pablo.
Opinion. Objectively, in my opinion.
There's like so much to be said about that.
Yeah.
That would tack on a lot of time.
Yeah, no, exactly. If you subscribe on Patreon, you'll get the Kanye the Kanye discourse. We're gonna talk about the Alex Jones stuff too. It's gonna be great.
Oh no,
not
fucking
Patreon.
That shit. Well, actually, to say one thing about that.
Yeah, no, please do.
For him to be like, I'm gonna dress up like a supervillain, and then
go on and say that shit,
and then like actually get like an internet supervillain like Alex Jones to be like, whoa, man, you're sounding a little crazy.
Yeah, it's like insane. I wonder, because I mean, like, okay. And I think a lot of people bring up this in an attempt to like defend Kanye, which I want to make clear is not what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like, I'm bringing up a precedent that I think not a lot of other people like remember because most of us weren't alive for it, including me. I just know about it because I'm a fan of this other artist. David Bowie did like the exact same shit in the 70s during his like Thin White Duke era. He said a lot of like, he didn't come straight. Actually, no, I think I might be incorrect, but I believe there is an interview where he actually is quoted as saying like, I think like a person who I will not name on this podcast had a point.
Yeah.
But like, you know, I wonder.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
He got to have that moment that was just like, oh, like I was actually just like doing a bunch of blow every day and only drinking milk and eating red peppers. So like, that's not me. Like,
yeah.
And, you know, it's hard to see Kanye getting that moment, you know, if he, you know, if a redemption is the, you know, it's like, who are we to say whether or not redemption is possible for this random celebrity that neither of us know. Right. But like,
yeah.
It's hard because of like the internet and the speed at which discourse moves and like the polarization of opinions. It's like, it's hard to foresee like the same kind of redemption for Kanye that like Bowie had, because like Bowie kind of got to have through like the speed and nature of the news cycle in that time, this moment of getting to say much later, like, hey, I was totally fucking stupid for saying that.
Yeah.
And this is what was happening. Like,
yeah, it's to be seen if that'll ever happen because unfortunately so much of his ethos is like, I'm never wrong and everybody's resisting me.
Oh, exactly.
Which I think makes it a lot more difficult, but as
it
far
makes
as
it harder to empathize with.
Yeah,
because it's like, come on, dude. Like, you at a certain point, like, just fucking apologize for being an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, how hard is it?
Yeah. The Life of Pablo is interesting just because of how diverse it is. Like all of his other albums up to that point, I feel like sonically are very unified. And The Life of Pablo, like it's the closest thing to like a Kanye mixtape where it's like these songs are not alike.
Which I think makes it the closest thing to a perfect Kanye album.
Right.
Because it's kind of like strewn together hastily. Like that album was still being finished by the time it was on streaming services.
I think that that's something that can be cool, but then also in some ways overly glorified because I think Donda had the same experience, but not with the same results.
Yeah. But like at the same time, even Life of Pablo, I don't think the real-time editing had the same effect that he intended. Like, you know, and it felt like a justification. It was like, okay, like, dog, you're calling this like a living, breathing work of art, which means like you didn't finish the mixes and you're gonna just upload them when they're done.
Yeah.
But like even that in itself feels so like Kanye that it makes it perfect.
Yeah.
Like that like I don't know, there's folks I feel like that like weren't around for that rollout maybe. And like you know, like God, like how old heads are we that like you remember like the Life of Pablo? You remember 2015?
That still feels like the new album in some ways.
No, yeah, like that was like I was late to the Kanye train. Like that was the first album I got to experience the rollout of like as an active Kanye fan.
Okay.
You know?
For me, that was my Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Okay.
I was listening to like only rock music and I was very anti-pop and like rap because at the time rap like was pop. So my only exposure to it was like stuff I just didn't like. And then like as an 8th grader, I heard 808s and Heartbreak and I was like, this is one of the best things I've ever heard in my life. And then like high school starts with My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy coming out, which is like the coolest freshman year of high school album like ever.
Yeah.
And then like senior year, you're getting like Watch the Throne and Yeezus, and I was like, this is the greatest shit ever.
Yeezus did come out senior year.
Oh, and Cruel Summer, and yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Frank Ocean was like popping like our junior year, like he started to kind of have.
I was kind of late to him.
Yeah.
I heard Bad Religion on Jimmy Fallon. I have a take that this is to the internet. Jimmy Fallon has the best music performances of any late night show ever. Say what you will about him, but their curation of music performances is immaculate. And Frank Ocean did Bad Religion on there, and and it was so good. Love that song.
I think part of it comes from the fact, you know, like not everyone goes on there being like a quote unquote musician, but I do think that in addition to the curation being tight, I think if you go on there and you're having the fucking Roots watch you perform or sometimes performing with you, you gotta snap.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I would not go on there and do like DUI to like the Spotify recording in front of the Roots.
Right.
You know what I mean? I would like, I'd have Questlove. I mean, although, I don't know. I love my brother's my drummer.
Yeah.
And I love him as a drummer so much that I might actually pick him instead of Questlove. But also Questlove is like my favorite drummer on records that I've listened to.
Oh, yeah?
Like D'Angelo Voodoo is like one of my favorite albums.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, that brings me to a great last topic maybe to finish with.
Yeah.
So I was like looking into just like what you're into, and I came across D'Angelo Voodoo, and at first I that's an artist who I've just known forever is so prolific, but I've just never really taken the time.
Yeah.
So I was starting to listen to Voodoo, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll listen to this prolific album and I can talk to her about it. Instead, I listened to another album you revere. I listened to Astro Lounge by Smash Mouth.
Yo, okay, all right,
and
let's go.
Like, I definitely like heard that album when I was younger, and it'd been a long time. And track 1 is incredible.
Yeah, like the way that shit kicks off, and like you get the whole aesthetic of the album, and like the UFO ass like theremin synths and shit, and like the fucking pop, like they don't make shit like that anymore. And like, I don't know, like
it's kind of like Electric Lights Orchestra, like esque.
And the children gather and
It's ambitious but tight. It's not maximalist though.
Mm-hmm.
It's tasteful. It's a perfect pop album.
Yeah.
Wow. Great last topic
to
bring up. I love that record. I mean, God, that's what this I don't know. We're experiencing this whole like Y2K, like early 2000s revival in music and fashion right now.
Yeah.
But like, and whenever that happens, like it happened with the 80s in like 2015, 2016, right?
It's just
like,
so funny because for us, it's like, oh, that's just childhood.
Yeah. And like they miss out on the uncool stuff because like, usually I think what's cool about these revivals is we see them is like stuff that like wasn't actually cool at the time that's being revived gets to have its moment.
Yeah.
But Smash Mouth has like, when's Smash Mouth gonna have their moment they deserve? Because there's so much more than the Shrek band. Although, I mean, I'm assuming you got this from, you watched like my other the one other interview I've done.
Well, actually, I was on your Twitter and I saw that you had said that Astro Lounge should be in the top 10 albums of all time.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I try not to watch too much of the other interviews my guests have done because I don't want to create the same video.
No,
I skimmed very briefly and I did see that you guys talked about it, but I didn't actually listen to it.
Okay, cool. Because I'm going to talk about one thing from there one more time that's awesome, which is, have you seen the video of like the last Smash Mouth concert ever?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Where he's just going,
like,
he wants to fight everyone.
He wants to kill someone's family, but like while he's saying all this shit, just in the background is boom, boom, boom.
Like it's like set to all-star. I'm gonna go out in the crowd. I'm gonna beat the shit.
Yeah, like I'm gonna fucking like strangle your wife or like some shit. It's crazy.
And security is just like, man.
Yeah.
If you're man enough to throw something at me right now, I'm gonna walk out there and beat the fucking shit out of you.
Also, the whole crowd just starts doing the lyrics for him.
I know. I think it was like, I remember like hearing about, it was when I was living in Boston at the time, but I was working, so I didn't get to go to this, but Smash Mouth played in the Boston Common.
Uh-huh.
This would have been like 2015, maybe early 2016. And
were you going to Berkeley at the time?
I went to Berkeley for 1 year and then dropped out. This was the year that I dropped out. I was working at the Country Bar and being a barback and like being an alcoholic. I was like by 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
But I was working that night and couldn't go. But apparently Smash Mouth pulled up to the Boston Common and everyone's wearing Shrek masks. And Steve Harwell just got pissed that he was like about to sing to a sea of Shreks.
Yeah.
Because this was the beginning of the Shrek meme. Like Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life was like just starting to have its moment.
Yeah.
And he just, I guess like I had heard that he just got like pissed and walked off. He was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to sing to the Sea of Shreks right now.
It's unfortunate, too, because everyone there has so much love and good intention in their hearts.
It's like, I think they all assumed that because the meme had happened, that the band that made the song must be as in on the meme as they are.
Yeah.
But, like, that would suck. I don't know. I can simultaneously empathize with Steve Harwell because that would be a nightmare. To be, especially when you hear that album, right? Like, there's masterful music being made on that album.
It's really good. Well, the funny thing too is that All Star, if I'm not mistaken, is track 5.
Yeah.
And track 1 is like this crazy like liftoff moment. And then track 4 is Waste, which is kind of emotional.
Waste is so good.
I'm listening to the sequencing of the album, and I know in my head, I'm like, okay, All Star is coming. And that's a song I normally only hear as a single. And it's so funny and amazing. And I'm like, okay, maybe in sequence, it'll just be real smooth.
It doesn't make any sense.
You listen to Waste as track 4.
Yeah,
and
it's like, should I be crying right now? And then,
it's
like,
super emotional.
Yeah, it's
so
really funny.
emotional.
I try to tell myself that it's because of the context we now have of the meme, but that shit just sticks the fuck out like a sore thumb. Like, it doesn't make any sense on the album. That song's it's still great though. Like, I think, like,
it's an amazing song though. It's not a bad song.
The production and songwriting makes, like, the individual parts of that song make sense on the album.
Yeah.
But then when that shit comes in after Waste, it's just like, what? Why? And yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. But, like, yeah, imagine making, fuck it, I'm going to say it. Imagine making, like, a Beatles tier album.
Yeah.
And then, you know, in your twilight stage of your career, you're just the Shrek band.
You're in Cars 4 and it's all fucked up.
Yeah. Oh, I want to be in Cars 4 so bad. I'll take it though.
Have you seen Cars 3?
No, I've only seen Cars 1.
Okay, so like Cars 2 was lampooned as like the first bad Pixar movie because it's like just like there's like spies in like Japan for some reason. It makes no sense. Cars 3 is like the proper sequel to Cars 1, and I think it's really underrated.
Okay, noted.
So if you have a Disney Plus and some time to kill, Cars 3.
I think my mom has it, so I'll steal her login. Because fortunately, only Netflix, I think so far, does the stupid thing where you can't fucking share it anymore.
What's wrong with them?
I don't know. They just got too much money. They got enough money to stop having to pretend about their consumer base. Just like anyone else.
And also, HBO has like the strongest brand of all time, and now
they're like, we're Max.
Yeah, what's wrong with Anyways, do you think that Happy Feet or Surf's Up is better?
I think Happy Feet has a more compelling drama and plot.
Mm-hmm.
But Surf's Up is like a very concise classic. It's hard to tell. I love the look of Happy Feet.
This was an argument I had last night, and I feel really strongly, so I was just curious if I'm the outlier or not.
I've seen Surf's Up the most recently, and I found it to be like great. So let me watch Happy Feet again. This is going to be something I'm going to have to like have an after the fact discussion with you on.
Okay.
Because I'm having to compare like my recent viewing of Surf's Up with my like at this point over a decade ago viewing of Happy Feet.
My thing about Surf's Up, if you will, and I'm kind of just keeping you here to hear this madness.
No, let's go.
Okay, first of all, soundtrack wise, like it has like Welcome to Paradise by Green Day when they hit the island.
So good.
And like I think other Green Day songs, and like it's just a really good soundtrack. I think Shia LaBeouf is an incredible voice actor. I think the subtlety when he plays Zeke or whatever, or Cody, really good. They do that. It's like weirdly filmed like a documentary. Like it's like a handheld. The shaky
cam and shit is so fire.
And they put like really good film grain on it for no reason. And I think it's like Al Brooks is playing the old guy, I think. Yeah. And it's basically the exact same plot as Cars. Like there's this like rookie, and he finds out that the dude who everybody thought like retired or died is just like hiding away in a shack, and then he gets trained by him and beats like the bully guy. It's like the exact same premise, but kind of better. And fucking like Billy Crystal is like running the whole thing. Like Mike Wazowski is basically there. And like I just think it's a really good movie. And Happy Feet, like I don't even remember Happy Feet, so I am biased in that, but it clearly didn't make an impression on me.
I lean more towards Surf's Up as well because of like kind of noticing similar things on the recent viewing.
Yeah.
I do remember Happy Feet like jarring a lot of emotion out of me as a kid though. I don't remember I don't remember like the plot beats of it, but I remember the one penguin with the 6-pack around his neck when it starts to actually choke him. I remember that. There's a lot of like actual serious drama in Happy Feet. Like there's one like
I need to rewatch it.
I do too. I just remember that being really harrowing. Wow. I actually remember Happy Feet being kind of fucking horrifying.
Well, do you know the director Frank Miller?
Yes, didn't Frank Miller did fucking okay, I just watched one of his movies.
He did all the Mad Max movies.
Okay, and there was that's crazy. There's something else I'm remembering from him though.
He did Babe.
Okay, that's also really funny.
Yeah, the guy who did Babe and Happy Feet did all the Mad Maxes.
He did fucking he was a comic book writer too.
Oh wait.
Or was it
Frank Miller? Okay, wait, I'm confusing Frank's.
I'm
I
just
think
gonna Google Happy
Frank
Feet.
Miller, I think, is the
George Miller.
George Miller. My bad.
Miller.
Frank Miller did some of the most iconic Batman comics. George Miller did all these movies.
Yeah, no, he did you're right. He did fucking Mad Max and Happy Feet and Babe.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look up his filmography real quick. Oh, he did Twilight. Oh yeah, he did that Twilight Zone movie where like the kids got decapitated in real life by a helicopter.
Wait, that was him?
Yeah,
I thought that was Max Land or John Landis.
John Landis did work on that.
Oh, okay.
But
I thought that was John Landis.
But George Miller was the director. I think Landis was a producer.
Interesting.
He did. Okay. He. Oh, that's crazy. I didn't realize he did the old Mad Maxes and he also did Fury Road. That's kind of fire.
Yeah, he came out of retirement in his 70s to do Fury Road.
Fury Road's a great movie.
It's incredible. He's making a Furiosa movie right now.
That's sick. Charlize was like the fucking star of that movie.
I think it might be a prequel with a different actress because I don't think Charlize liked making that movie.
No, because fucking like Tom Hardy was in like method actor mode and being like a fucking dick to her the whole time.
They were in like the deserts of Africa and it was just really brutal filming, I guess.
She ate though in that movie.
She's the real main character. Yes. I know you said we weren't gonna do 3 hours, but we're at like 2:36, so I think I should probably start to wrap this up. But I've been having a very lovely time.
Oh no, me too. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like I could talk to you about all this forever. So
well, sometime like I go to fucking Tempe. I'd say like a decent amount. So next time I'm out there, like we can just like hang out and do this. Like,
yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that's where I live.
Fuck yeah. All right.
Okay, Estelle Allen, Music 2. Florida the Man.
Yeehaw.
Is the title Country Girls Make Do?
Country Girls Make Do, baby.
Yeah. Both very good albums, EPs. Hello. You want to say anything? I'm bad at outros.
That's the tea, sis.
That's the tea. Here, if you want, also, I'll like visual effects anything you want. If you want like lasers or if you want like a title card, whatever you want.
Can you put like laser meme eyes on me right now with what I'm about to do?
Yeah, I can do that.
And then like turn my skin green.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's none of my business.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, I think. You
Kermit
think you think the lasers will come out like when you look at the lens?
Yeah.
Or you're gonna laser and then look.
Can you like okay, this might be a lot of like After Effects shit. Can you distort my form to look like Kermit the Frog, but like barely? Like, you know, you don't have to try like that hard.
I feel like that requires a minimum level of trying pretty hard.
Can you like? I want you to try and then fail to make me look like Kermit.
Okay,
so
well,
it looks like an anomaly. I want to look like I was birthed from a nightmare.
You want me to use like the warp mesh tool to just push your limbs around?
Yeah, no, like distort, make like my chest like the head of Kermit.
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay,
all right, I'm gonna start turning stuff off. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
That was very fun. Hell yeah. I gotta take all this stuff down.
Yay.